We're live.
We're live.
We're live.
Oh my gosh, we're live.
We're back,
Hello
baby.
and welcome. We're back. Welcome back to Hobby Vomit. My name is Ian. This is
I'm Matt. Hello.
and thanks for joining us. So we are back and we're back on the book train, which feels awesome. We're gonna do some discussions on Gardens of the Moon, the sequel. Memories of Ice. Which I am personally very excited to finally be able to actually discuss Memories of Ice because I was itching to get back to these characters. I was saying it while we were doing Deadhouse Gates. I love Deadhouse Gates, but I really love the characters in Gardens of the Moon. I love the weapons in Gardens of the Moon, and Steven Erikson doesn't disappoint. Dragon Purr made an appearance, sort of. It almost. Yeah. I gotta be honest. We'll get into this, but even if it had been a total bloodbath, it would have been worth it if I got to see the sword. So I'm waiting. I'm waiting.
The whole cast died in part one.
Yeah, even if
just
every
the sword
main
lives
character dies in part one, and we just end it with like Dragnipur like in a stone for a boy from Britain to come pull out. I don't care. Just give it to me.
Yeah, come on, Steven. I mean, that's going in my predictions. I think it's
Also,
bound to happen by the end of this book.
Spoilers. That was good.
Oh, spoilers. Yeah, spoilers. I mean, you're probably it's in the title of the video, so hopefully you didn't click on this. And I mean, if you just came in and you just heard Dragnipur, you probably don't know what that means.
Yeah. Well, but it's from Gardens of the Moon, so we haven't spoiled anything there. I just, I meant spoilers about Dragnipur secretly being Excalibur. That's no, I'm just kidding. I'm just kidding. But no, it's been awesome. I've been very excited to finally get back to this. So, but yeah, as always, for people who haven't watched any of these before, just to let everybody know, this is us doing a kind of spoiler review of the very first part of Memories of Ice. And again, with Steven Erikson's work in the Tales of Malazan, all of these stories are broken up into their own books, which is a little bit confusing. Because we're talking about the book Memories of Ice, but then it has multiple books inside of it. So we'll oftentimes just call them parts. But we have read the prologue and we read the first part. And so we will be doing a discussion on that, which will have many, many spoilers, but not any spoilers or anything beyond that because we've not read anything beyond that part. And then so we'll kind of open up with sort of what has happened leading up to this. And then we will go into what we think so far, what's going on so far, and then sort of our predictions moving forward. And we'll be happy if any of those actually pan out, because I think our success rate is usually like 15% or something. So it's
being generous.
Yeah, our safest bets have been very good, right?
Yep.
When we're like, a thing is going to happen to a character at a time and a place. Those have all, when we're that general, it's worked out fine.
Yeah, I'm going to predict that there's going to be a book 2, 3, and 4 within this book.
See, that's what I'm saying. See, these are the kind of bets. If we stick to these, Matt, we're gonna be golden moving forward. Okay. So, I'm hesitant. Not hesitant. I'm maybe a little worried when we get to the predictions because I feel like I feel like I'm gonna miss a lot, but I'm also very, very excited to miss because I just want to know. Like I just want to see what's gonna happen. It's gonna be good. But yes, that's the plan. And you ready to jump in?
Yeah, well, I also wanted to say, just since this is the start of a new book or novel, whatever, what have you, just going over what we are the plan for this book is. And so it's the same as Deadhouse Gates, but we might have some new people watching. If that's the case, we do ask that if you want to comment, that's great. But just know that keep the spoilers to where we are at in the book. So we, like Ian said, we've not read beyond part 1 of Memories of Ice. So spoilers for part 1 or, anything from Deadhouse or for Gardens of the Moon, all that's fair game. Just keep in mind or try not to post any spoilers beyond that. That would be great. And then just what is each of these videos going to look like? So we have a bit of a format that we're going to try and follow. And it's going to go like this. So we're going to start every video by doing a high-level overview of the previous part. Or in this case, we're going to kind of talk about Gardens of the Moon a little bit. Then we're going to do a high-level overview of the part that we just read. And then we're going to kind of get into just the plot, the characters, and the like politics and world building. All that's going to be one big group. Then towards the end, we will talk about what we liked or disliked about the part we just read, followed and ending with any predictions or desires we have for the following part. And so, yeah, it's if you're new, welcome. You probably already saw. We're notorious for saying, "Oh, well, I mean, I think we could knock this part out in an hour and a half."
Yeah. Mm-hmm.
And you'll probably be looking down at the time saying, "It's 2.5 hours, Matt. It's 2.5 hours."
I always like to say that, like, if I tell somebody it'll be 30 minutes, and if they're surprised when I come back in 50 minutes, then they just haven't spent enough time with me. Because you should always just add that like extra 50% on any time that I give you. So if we're gonna knock this out in 90 minutes, just add that extra 50%. Yeah. That'll probably be more accurate.
Yeah. It's just fun to gush about. So, but yeah,
it is. We get carried away.
I know.
And the last thing I want to mention as a follow-up, because there will be a little of this getting brought into this video, because I have a few things I want to talk about. But normally what we'll do is for our grand review of a book, we do that at the very end. So we'll do like a part 4, and then we'll do a video where we talk about that book and how it fits into the whole series. So as far as like discussions go in the comments, when we get to the end of the book, when we'll start talking more and more and more about this compared to Deadhouse Gates, compared to Gardens of the Moon, how it's all coming together as a series, and things like that, and really start weaving the stories together across the whole series. Now there is a few things I want to talk about in this episode with our review about Deadhouse Gates coming into this one, but we'll just get to that when we get to that, because there was a couple of things I was very impressed by coming off of Deadhouse Gates, especially since we're like coming off of Deadhouse Gates, but then rewinding time because we got to go back to Gardens of the Moon. But I was very, very impressed. So, but we'll get to that when we get to that.
Yeah. Okay. I think we are ready. You know, I did forget for the overview of the parts. For future parts, we'll talk about. We'll start the videos with our previous predictions, just going over them, see if we got anything right or wrong, and just a very, very quick. Because it's almost always going to be, did you like the part? Did you like part 1 of Memories of Ice?
Yeah. I personally loved part 1. I had a phenomenal time. The humor really landed for me, actually. I don't even know that. I really felt like Steven Erikson intended there to be many funny parts, especially with Croup. Croup was amazing. I really love these characters from Gardens of the Moon. I love that they're back. I love that we get to see more development with them. I was always a big Piran and Croup fan, so I'm just glad that we get to spend more time with these characters.
Yeah, same. It was a big win. And another disclaimer. Speaking of Croup or Krupp or whatever, we are 100% going to mess up 100% of the names. It's probably Whiskey Jake, and we're just we're just like calling him Whiskey Jack. It's like, no, it's Whiskey Jake, you idiot. But no, we are. Yeah, I mean, we're gonna mess up the names. There's so many names, and I just can't be bothered to look up the correct pronunciation. So I'm sorry if that offends you. Feel free to call us out though. So speaking of Whiskey Jake or Whiskey Jake. Let's get into it. So we'll start by, I think you want to maybe briefly talk about the events of Gardens of the Moon so that we can talk about what happened leading up to this book. So take it away.
Yeah, and so we don't need to talk about a whole lot, but I think at least talking about the very ending of Gardens of the Moon, because as far as we can tell, the events that take place in this book are basically going to take place along the events of Deadhouse Gates. At least what it seems, we're in the same sort of time period. But there are a lot of hearkenings back to the end of Gardens of the Moon. So at the end of Gardens of the Moon, it sort of ended with the adjunct Lauren sort of releasing, along with this Talani Moss that she sort of named Tool. They released this Jagged Tyrant. And in Deadhouse Gates, we learned a lot about the Jagged. We know that the Jagged were one of the races that fought against the Amas, which we now know why they're called the Talani Moss, which is really cool. But they fought against the Amas in this sort of eternal struggle. And so we learned a lot more about them. But this Jaghut Tyrant was one of these really, really powerful Jaghut beings that it was so powerful he had to be imprisoned. And they release him, and he marches on Darujhistan, where everything had been swirling, right? The Malazan Empire trying to take down take down the city of Darujhistan. So everything's sort of swirling around that event. And then it all unfolds with the release of this Azeth house that then claims that Jaghut Tyrant, imprisons him once again, as well as taking a few of one of our main characters and the head of the Assassins Guild in Darujhistan, which is more of a mercenary guild. Mm-hmm. But in the aftermath of that, we sort of see a sort of restructuring of things. We see that Darujhistan and Malazan, they're no longer going to fight. And in fact, that lays the groundwork for an alliance. The Bridge Burners get completely kicked out of the Malazan Empire. Whiskey Jack and Dujek One Arm become closer, but also at the same time become sort of maligned against Tassicren, who then disappears, as we now know has disappeared. Tattersail dies in that conflict. Leading up to that, Paran has this insane experience where he actually sees a Hound of Shadow get killed by Anomander Rake and imprisoned in Dragnapur, and then he goes into Dragnapur and then breaks the chains and releases the Hound and doesn't know what happens to it, and then gets out himself. And then we get this like first introduction to the fact that Anomander Rake is actually a dragon as well, and he takes out this demon, and so this whole thing kind of ends with everything settling, the dust settling, some of our characters raising up into pretty significant positions of power, like Cole stops being a drunkard, becomes a council member. Kroop gets revealed as one of the sort of lead spies, the eel in Darujhistan. But the main thing is just sort of this massive conflict, this revelation around these characters. It all subsides into now this forming of an alliance between the Malazans that have been outcast, namely Dujek and his army, and Darujhistan. And of course, there's more that gets revealed about that in Deadhouse Gates. But that's sort of where we're left off. And a lot of that, I know I'm kind of painting with long, huge brushstrokes here. But I wanted to kind of hit on all those things because I believe, if I got my accounting right, I think all of those things are brought back up in part 1 of Memories of Ice. And so we'll kind of talk about that more as we go through our discussion. But I was very excited by like how much got dug back up from the last part of Gardens of Moon.
Yeah.
So.
Yeah. It was awesome to see. And then the one other important moment was just erased when he breaks a notable bridge on his way into Darujhistan. There's a bridge that he destroys. And that is kind of where, and I guess it's not where we start Memories of Ice, but it's where we start Memories of Ice, not in the prologue.
Yeah.
And it is, I mean, who knows? We'll talk about that when we get to it, but I think there's maybe some significance there.
Yeah. There's one other thing that comes up, which is not as important, but it just cracks me up. But like, there were several moments in Gardens of Moon where there are card games being played, and it is implied that Fiddler and Quick Ben are like up to something.
There's bullshitting.
They're bullshitting. Yeah, and then I love that it's actually revealed that not only was that true, but they had like engineered an entire table to help them cheat at like a large game of cards.
Mm-hmm.
So that just was so good.
Yeah. Oh yeah. Well, yeah. Let's we'll talk about the table here in a little bit, which is just. It's just crazy. Like a table is a major player in this. But yeah, so that's kind of our high level overview of what we're about to get into, and then I wrote down a very brief a very high level overview. So what we just read in the Spark and the Ashes, basically I just put a stage is set for an alliance of former rivalry armies to unite against a new religious foe, the Panyan Domin, if that's how you say it. Who knows? And then also, that's kind of like our main thing. But there's also like a smaller but also bigger problem that's starting to emerge, which is that a bigger stage for an even bigger war against the crippled god, the crippled god has been introduced that is potentially going to be waging war on all of the Warrens as we know it, which is not really our main concern here in this book yet. Who knows if it will become, but it is starting to show itself a little bit. So that's really it. It's really just a gathering, a major gathering of different parties that are going to fight this new major foe that we heard about, I believe, in Gardens. Like I think they name dropped, but yep. Like I think once, and I was just like, Pan-Domin, never heard of them. See ya.
Yep.
And now I'm like, oh no, this is bad. They're bad.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, it wasn't necessarily set up as like, oh, the next book is going to be Pan-Domin. We really get a lot more of that in Deadhouse Gates, where it's, obviously there's a lot of big reveals in Deadhouse Gates, which we'll kind of talk about as we move through this. But yeah,
even like, yeah, it's crazy. Like, I think I knew when like someone like Kaladin Bruda gets brought up in Gardens. I'm just like, he's probably important because he's here. But like, who are you like halfway through this book that I'm getting literally one scene with?
Yeah.
And then see ya. And I'm like, oh no, you're important. And I think that's the same scene where he talks about the Pan-Domin. I think it's been a long time since I read Gardens, but I think that's the conversation where the Pan-Domin get brought up originally was with Kaladin Brood. Maybe not, but yeah, it is very cool to see all those things start to flood back. You're like, oh, yeah. Oh, I remember this. And like Crone and just, it's very cool. But yeah. So just like normal, I think the prologue warrants us talking about by itself because it really is like, other than that, the rest is kind of all together. But the prologue does feel very separate but important. Yep. And yeah, let's talk about the prologue because there's some crazy stuff.
Yeah, so it's kind of two different things to talk about here in the prologue. But I think we start off with kind of where the prologue starts off with, is just the war between the Imass and the Jaghut.
Yep.
And you kind of got the characters listed here, but we do have several different characters that are named and important, and these are bone casters. And this is at a time when the Telani Maas are not yet the undead creatures that we know of them as, but they're actually on the precipice of taking that ritual, which is the ritual of Talan, which is what then leads them to become the Telani Maas. Because right now they're just the Imass. So now we understand the significance of that name, Telani Maas, that they're the people of Talan, which is meant to represent their undead nature that they've sort of taken on themselves. And they're doing this as a part of their they want an eternal war against the Jaghut. And one of the things that I found kind of harrowing about this was the fact that I believe it was Pran Cole, but it could be misremembering between him and another character. But they actually got to see themselves in the future at this time period that we're at now. And they saw themselves in the future, and they saw themselves as the Telani Maas, and they also knew that in the future there would still be Jaghut. And so, which kind of led to this sort of harrowing revelation of, or maybe a speculation of like, did Pran Cole see in the future the Jaghut tyrant who was imprisoned being released, and then think of that as like, no, we're still going to be fighting them in like 200,000 years. So it needs to be an eternal war. And therefore we need to do this. And it becomes sort of this self-fulfilling prophecy of like, no, actually it maybe didn't need to be an eternal war. Right. Or maybe it did. We don't really know. But at the same time, there's sort of this sort of providential fated element, because at the same time too, if they had died out, maybe we wouldn't have them now when we need them, presumably, with oh my gosh, but yeah, with the crippled god, I think is actually where it's become more important. But so we kind of see that event, but it's very important for them, and unclear exactly why, but it's very important for them to eliminate the Jaghut.
Yeah, which is crazy too, because we learn, which this just in itself makes it really interesting, because we know that Steven Erikson intended to write this before Deadhouse Gates. But the knowledge we got in Deadhouse Gates about the Jaghut and the Telani Moss War, I think enlightened us a lot to where we kind of learn the Jaga as a whole were not really bad and not really fighting the Emos. There was a very select few of these tyrants, but the Emos said, nope, you're all bad, and we're going to kill all of you instead. So really, like, the Emos are kind of the bad guys here.
No, I think that's the way I think about it. Is like they really are. Now, there is another character that we're being introduced to, right? Silver Fox, who is kind of connected, who's going to connect back to this prologue, and it hasn't been named yet, but I think that we're supposed to understand that she has a connection to a Bonecaster. She's the first Flesh and Blood Bonecaster. And it seems like, right, there's a connection to a Bonecaster going all the way back to the prologue. That's what it seems to be implying, right? And so that she's kind of related to this whole prologue, and the events are taking place in the prologue. Yeah.
I think I know who.
Yeah, I'm pretty sure, right? Because that seemed to be what Callow, which we'll get into in a second, but that's what it seems to be what he reveals.
Yeah.
Yeah.
I was thinking it was Bellerdan, because that's another, like, so what happened to this guy?
I know, and I know I'm going to get us a little off track, but it was the it was kind of an interesting style, because actually this is one of those things I kind of expect now more for like Joe Abercrombie after the Devils. But there's a scene where Caller like grabs Silver Fox and he specifically says, "You're in there, you bitch."
Mm-hmm.
But there's only one other character who he will not call by name. He only calls them by bitch, and that's one of the Bonecasters from the prologue. And so I think that's the same.
Wait,
yeah.
Who?
It was the third, one of the third ones. He's like, "You bitch," because he's like, or maybe. Are
you talking about the Sister of Cold Knights?
I couldn't remember if there was a Sister of Cold Knights, but there's Karul, there's Draconis, there's a Sister of Cold Knights.
Yeah.
But okay, so I guess maybe there was Nightchill that he was referring to as like, "You bitch."
That's who I think, because she is the Sister of Cold Knights.
Okay.
I think we are led to believe.
But then he like talks about this Bonecaster. They mention this like Bonecaster, and there like seems to be this sort of idea of like the Bonecaster has been there for like the hundreds of thousands of years and is like seeing these events, and there seems to be like this relationship that's being drawn about the events of the prologue.
Well, yeah.
I just found it really interesting that we like get the Bonecasters, then we get that group, and then we have this confrontation, and he's like calling out Nightchill, and he's calling out. And he's also talking about the Bonecasters like in the same revelation, and he has this like fierce animosity, but then at the same time, like it's like a point of issue for him that he has to bring up a Silver Fox about the fact that the Jagut were pacifists. Like at the same time that he's like vehemently against Silver Fox because of Nightchill, he's also like ridiculing her about the decisions of the Telani Mass and the Jagut. It just really seemed like that Steven Erikson was trying to imply through that conversation that it's not just Nightchill that's in there that goes way back.
Yeah, so now that you said that made me think of because we do know there is a third entity within Silver Fox. Right, we know Tattersail, we know Nightchill. I was believing up till now it could have been Bellerdan or whatever, but now that you say that, and like, so in the prologue, which by the way, there's kind of the two parts of the prologue, which I don't know how close together those two things are in time. I don't know. It might say the dates. But they are separated by. Oh, there are dates. They're separated by chapters.
Yep.
There's like a Roman numeral 1 and 2. So let's see this. Sorry, I think this is important actually. So the part with the Telani Moss takes place 298,665,000 or whatever years before Burn Sleep. And part 2 takes place 180,000 years later. But anyways, so there's a character called Kalava, which we'll talk about here in a second, who is an Emos, and she is the only one who does not undergo the ritual. So now I'm thinking it's her.
That's what I was thinking too. And I just kept wondering, is like, I feel like it's because presumably she's the only one it could be. I mean, there obviously could be more revelations, but at this time it kind of feels like it's the only one it could be.
Yeah, I didn't even put that together, but as soon as you said, I was like, oh yeah, it would make a lot of sense for it to be to be her, and she's a really important character because speaking of Kalava, she hunts down this Jagat mother and her 2 children, hunts them down, and basically offers this Jagat mother to save her children. To
Which
take
is
her
why
children.
she hunted them down, actually.
Mm-hmm. And so
because she had recently lost a child, I think is what it was said. Yeah, because
I
remember
should have reread the prologue. There's a lot going on in the prologue.
So she hunts. Yeah, she goes after this woman. She finds the 2 children. She offers a bargain. Basically, I can't save your life, but I can save the lives of your children. But she actually suckles. She like nurses the 2 children, and so the prologue makes a kind of a pointed effort to explain that like she had children recently, and was still nursing. So within like the last couple of years, but they've passed on now. So they were killed in this war, or potentially they died when she killed her village or something like that, right? Or maybe that was one of the things that happened before she killed her village. But yeah, so she lost her children. So she's specifically going after them to save these children, because the fact that because this war has cost her her own, and she wanted to be able to at least save somebody's children, right? Yeah,
and she thinks she basically takes them to this place called, I think it's Morn, a place called Morn, where there's a what is called a rent in the sky, which we now know is basically a poisoned or wounded Warren, basically. And so she thinks she's doing the right thing. I mean, that's the impression I got, that she was doing the right thing by, is she hiding the children in there, or she's, what exactly is she trying to do?
Right, she's trying to give them freedom. So the way that I interpreted it, which I could be off, but I had to ask myself, like, why would she just save the Jagat mother? But then one of the things we do know is that, and I think, again, it may have been Pran Cole, but I might be just misremembering which Bonecaster it was, but I think it was Pran. But they have a way of tracking the Jagat mother.
Mm-hmm.
And somehow the Bonecaster, Kalava, can disrupt that. They can't track her.
Yeah.
But I think there's a problem, is like they're tracking the mother, not the children. And even though she can obfuscate the way they can track her, she can't obfuscate the way that they would track the mother. And so that's why she can't spare the mother. But it seems like there's a problem of, once they do get the mother, they're then quickly able to figure out where the children are going.
Yeah.
And I think, at least it seemed to me, is like Kalava comes to this understanding as well, that she can only keep them away for so long, and she would have to be on the run constantly because they would be able to keep finding her. And so it seemed like she sees this opportunity of, well, if that's a Jagat Warren, then the Moss will never follow them into the Jagat Warren, because it would be a death sentence,
which she's mistaken about, and being a Jagat Warren.
Yeah, and that's the problem, is right. So she's like, no, if I send them in there, there is a chance they die, but there's also a chance that they get adopted. They would be able to live and thrive in a Jagat Warren. It won't necessarily be easy, but then they want to spend their entire lives on the run from these Moss, who, and again, she knows that they're about to take on the Ritual of Talon. Once they take on the Ritual of Talon, they're going to be even more, right, like virulent in their pursuit, and more dangerous in the pursuit too, because they can turn into dust and blow on the wind. Like,
yeah.
Exactly. And so it's going to be much, much harder for her to keep the children safe once that happens. So this is a real opportunity, and you might ask, like, well, why even save them? And it's just like, well, even if she's sparing them, well, okay, I guess maybe
she's got like human emotion.
Yeah,
it's just like,
that's the thing, right?
Yeah, it's I get it. Like, especially with you saying like she's probably lost her kids, and like, they're kids. Why should they be victims of this war?
Yeah, and I think like we're meant to understand too that, like, even though the kids they haven't quite realized that, like, oh, their mother is dead, like they're gonna realize at some point. But that would certainly, even if they die, and like even if that happens, like that's still better. Like even if they die a day later, that's still like better than the horrors of like witnessing their mom be like brutally killed in front of them. right? At least like she could spare them that. And I think that that's she even if she could buy them a day,
Yeah.
like
you know what's
she
worse
feels
than
like she
all
has
of
to do
that?
that. What's it?
What we know is going to happen to them
Yep.
inside this war, which again, this is another thing that who knows, maybe maybe he changed the way he wrote this book with knowing that we obviously know what we know because of Deadhouse Gates,
Yep.
with what happens when there's a wounded Warren and how you heal that wounded Warren by just like this prolonged suffering, endless. And so that's what I can't remember. There's something in there right now. There's something in there holding that spot, basically.
Yep.
And when she sends the kids through or in or whatever, this frees this thing.
Yep.
Which I don't know any thoughts. At first, I was like, "Is this as I read on, I was like, "Is that the crippled god?" But I don't think it is. I think it's just some other. Because it describes it as like a wolf.
I don't think it is the crippled god. I think it's possible that the crippled god is the one who wounded the Warren. I don't think that it's necessarily the case. But I also don't know that we are supposed to assume that the children have been there or will be there eternally, because there's a conversation about the fact that that Kalava could save them in that moment. Like she could go in and take their place. And I found that really interesting, like that we had to have that conversation, which obviously tells us about Kalava, right? That she didn't want to condemn them to die with the fate that they did, and certainly would not have sent them in if she knew that, but doesn't, she's not moved enough to save them herself.
This is a conversation she's having with Pranchol and I wrote down Canig Toll, I think is the ones that catch up to them. They catch up to her after she's already sent them through.
Now, at the same time, too, if she goes into the Warren and frees them, I mean, they would just kill her. They would kill the children anyway. But at least
pop right back out right there.
Yeah, exactly. Presumably, right? They'd be out in nearby and be able to find them. It's whatever they freed is powerful enough to obscure itself, kind of like in the same way which is another thing that I kept thinking about was in Deadhouse Gates. Right, I mentioned, I was like, it's gonna keep coming back because like it actually has taught us a lot, which is kind of crazy. But with Heberic's god, which is really interesting. He is a boar god. It's beast that keeps being brought up, by the way, the beast gods. But he has a beast god who gets summoned, and it just hides.
Yeah,
and they can't find it, and that seems to happen again here, which I thought was really interesting. So maybe it's actually something from an Awarren. It's maybe not the god itself, but maybe it is something from one of those Warrens. So and it may be like kind of like the Shadow Hounds in a way. An ancient being from the Warren, but not necessarily the lord of a Warren. But yeah, it's powerful enough to hide itself from them. They can't find it.
Yeah.
But that was really, really interesting. But presumably, right, somebody else across those 180,000 years or so, or however long it's been, right, 40,000 years or more, might have freed them, which is also really interesting.
Yeah. Yeah, it is very interesting and pretty tragic prologue. Well, part one of the prologue.
Yeah.
But yeah, I mean, I am now.
Steven, he knows how to up it.
What's that?
How to keep upping. I was like, he knows how to keep upping the stakes. It's like, oh my gosh, these two children, a turtle, and then we go to the next one, and we're like, what the?
Yeah, yeah. Well, so there is a little in between, and that's where it talks about like the wolf, beast, just kind of like watching them, but we don't really get. I'm sure if I read it, 5 times, it's only like 3 paragraphs. I'm sure there's tons of things in those 3 paragraphs that I'm gonna be like, oh, Steven. Like it's like it was right there all along. Yeah. But I feel like from what I remember reading it, I just remember being like, there's some wolf thing that obviously got released from this Warren, and that's all I really know about it. So then we lead into whatever I said, 180,000 years later, with brand new characters. So we got these 3 gods. Are they gods?
I don't know that that's fair to say. They are elder.
They're what? They're elder. Yeah. Whatever they are. We got Cruel or K-Rule, if you were a rapper. Draconis. And the only unnamed, or maybe this is literally her name, but I'm guessing not, the sister of Cold Knights. These three people have come to this king's, or this tyrant. His name is Calor, who is basically like, they've come to curse him for what he's done. He's been a bad boy, and they need to curse him. And so yeah, he basically has this whole kingdom that he's just like killed everybody because he sucks. And there's like, bro, we got to curse you. Those are the rules. I mean, we don't. It's fantasy. These are the rules.
Yeah, it's kind of. I mean, the whole setup is really really crazy, right? Because he thinks they're gonna depose him in order to free these people, and so this is his clever out, right? He's like, well, if there's no people to liberate, then there's no reason to depose me.
Yeah, which is that is seriously it's crazy.
He condemns 7 million people to be incinerated.
Yep.
Yeah. Now they are like immortal beings, from what I can tell, and I guess technically they could be considered gods. But what seemed really strange to me though is it was hard for me to and I'll have to go back and maybe read it. Maybe they are explicitly called gods, but it seemed really strange that they might be of that stature, and he could curse them back.
Do you want to know?
I thought that was. What was it say?
In the dramatis persona, they are so Cruel and Draconis are elder gods. Sister of Cold Knights is an elder goddess.
Okay. So they are, and so which is really interesting that he could curse them back, because he's just a mortal being. And so it makes me also wonder too if there's, it doesn't go into it because that's sort of classic for these, but it seems like to curse him, like the way that they've done, they like subject themselves in a way. It's like a curse is like something that should not be taken lightly.
Yeah,
right.
I should have written down what the three curses were, like exactly. Well, the curse onto him. Do you want to talk about the curse that they put onto him? Because it's just like one collective, right? Yeah. It's not three individual curses.
It's one curse in 3 voices, which then he rebukes with 3 curses in one voice.
Yeah,
and this sort of symmetry. Yeah. I know. And it's like at one point it's like the symmetry is really cool. At another point it's also just like, well, you're Bob.
Yeah,
okay?
it really is. Yeah, dude just got bullied, and he's like, yeah, well, I'm gonna curse you back, except for it works. Yeah. So yeah, maybe I wonder if the curse has like, I don't know how he comes into this power to be able to curse them back, and maybe it's the curse they put on him, which is basically like eternal life, right? And just like eternal life of like failure.
Yeah, exactly. It's an eternal life of failure and just like withering. Like everything he does or desires or whatever ambitions that he might have for anything, all of it is to wither.
Yeah, because he still like ages. It kind of reminds me of just a small slight bleed over into Joe of Jakob a little bit. Jakob of Thorn, just continuing aging, feeling everything but cannot die, and just destined to failure. And so that's what they do to him. And then he says, "Oh yeah, well here are your curses." And you have to remind me of Cruel's because I don't remember Cruel's, but I know Draconis's is that he will be slain by the weapon that he created, which we learn is Dragnapur. So we are to assume that Draconis is inside of Dragnapur. That sister, Cold Knights, that I think it's like she'll fall in battle and she'll be betrayed or something like that. I should have written them down because it does feel like it's like a prophecy, right? More so than a curse, like they will happen. So it's something like that she'll fall in battle. Here we go. So he says that unhuman hand, this is to the sister of Cold Knights, unhuman hands shall tear your body into pieces upon a field of battle, which we know happened in the Battle of Pale, right? Because we think, right, she's Night Chill.
Yeah, they sort of confirm it in a way when you take different things together, because he accuses her of being a Night Chill. That does seem to be the case.
I think it is,
And also when they talk about Silver Fox, they do say that it was a piece of Night Chill. So they even sort of imply that the body that Beleren had wasn't the entire thing. even if maybe some of it's like physically present, but it doesn't represent the entirety of her. So she is effectively she's been torn apart.
Yeah, and it does say, "Yet you shall know no respite." Now, I am curious if that is like we don't know when Draconis was, in theory, slain by Rake, or whoever held Dragnipur before Rake, which maybe it wasn't him. But then Cruel. Let's see. Cruel, it just says you shall fade from the world, and apparently my memory. He's just fading from everybody. So that's it. He's just forgotten. And that's that's exactly what happened. That's hilarious.
Yeah. Curses work in mysterious ways.
Yeah. So
and go ahead. Sorry, go ahead.
Oh no. I was just gonna hit them one more time each, but yeah, go for it.
Well, so the other thing I just thought about as well is I wonder if with Draconis, he was one of the first victims, because in Gardens of the Moon, when Perron goes into Dragnipur, he meets someone there who is
probably
essentially like
him.
Yeah, it's probably him. He's like one of the oldest there.
Yeah. He's
like the leader of the caravan. And he's even like, yeah, I don't think you can leave. Like, I've never seen it done. And that's sort of what's at these events. But it's interesting because unlike these other characters like are chained and like dragging the wagon, that's not how we see this character. And so I'm thinking now that that's probably Draconis.
It's probably him.
Yeah.
And I wonder if we'll get like did Rake just slay him and he was the first victim of it, or was Rake even around?
Yeah.
I'm super curious.
What I'm hoping is the case. Like, I don't know, but this is my speculation. Okay, so I'm making my first prediction. Okay, I think he forged the weapon. We've reached the
end of the video already.
I know, right? I think he made the weapon. I think he gave it to Rake, and I think he asked Rake to slay him with it.
Oh, you think he asked him to?
Yeah.
Just to fulfill like because he knew he had to, or what?
I think that he wants to be in Dragnipur because he wants to be there because we also learn what the wagon is doing.
Yeah. Mm-hmm.
I think he wants to be. He feels like he needs to be there.
It's also interesting because we learn about how if a Warren, or sorry, the gosh, yeah, we're jumping all over the place, but we kind of have to because of the knowledge that we have. So like we learned that the Azath houses are linked to the houses in the Deck of Dragons. One of which is the house of it's dark, right? The House of Darkness, which is inside of Dragnipur.
Yep.
But we also learn that, which by the way, I'm pretty sure you predicted this or just talked about it in Dead House Gates, that the reason why Kellanved and what's his name, Dancer, were able to ascend in the House of High Shadow is because it was empty.
Yep.
And so now that you say it's like maybe he knew that inside was the house and empty, and now he could take that place on the throne, basically, of the High House Dark. Are they all High House? It's in the back.
Yeah, they're all houses, High Houses.
High House Dark.
But that revelation with Kellanved and Cotillion is really important because we have to remember too that they entered the gate of a warren that was occupied, but were still able to go from there to an unoccupied warren to take the throne. And from inside of Dragnipur, there is a gate. And so presumably anybody could, in from within Dragnipur. Now, to be fair, we're saying from within Dragnipur, anybody who happens to be killed by a sword, so to speak, and chained to a wagon for, but the point there being is that Dragnipur also hides this gate to the House of Dark, and presumably this can open up a lot. And we're seeing that with Perron, right? We're seeing the consequences of what happens there. And so I wonder if in some case that this person, maybe Animator Rake did betray him, or maybe it was something like that. But I wonder if there was a need that he had to be there with the gate. And so,
oh no, please don't slay me with my own sword. Then you'll have it and you'll be a total badass. No. It could be that.
Yeah, it could be that. Or maybe he did betray him, and Animator Rake really has like 6 fingers on one hand, and then like the future descendant of this guy comes back and he's like, my name is thing? No, it's
is this Inigo Montoya?
Yeah.
Yeah, I'm really curious. I guess I don't really know how old. I know Rake is old. We learned that in this part, and maybe we learned in Gardens too, but like at that point, I don't know if I was paying attention enough. But we know he's old. But he may not be the first wielder of Dragnipur.
True, but he is effectively immortal. I mean, at least he's
been around for a very long time.
Yeah.
Oh, and there's also a connection. We learned that in the past. Again, we're just jumping all over the place a little bit here, but we'll get back. That Lady Envy, who is the daughter of Draconis, traveled with Anomander Rake and Kaladin Brood, and they were all together for a while when the crippled god was chained up and all that. I mean, so presumably he's been around that long to where, he very well could be the only wielder of Dragnipur post Draconis. But we don't know if Draconis ever wielded it. He just made it. So anyways, that's the second part of the prologue, which is important because we're going to see, a couple of these characters again throughout book 1. So let's get into book 1, unless you have anything else to add for the prologue.
No, I mean, because a lot of that's going to keep coming back too. Yeah, it's and maybe it's one of those things where maybe I should have taken more time today to like organize the notes, but it's just like it is like a web. It really feels like we're just kind of being pulled around all these different parts and hitting on all these different things, because it's really crazy when you lay it all out how many different things in Gardens of the Moon and how many different things in Deadhouse Gates like we just hit like in this first part of this book. It's just like a lot of these lights are going off, right? And it's like setting the stage. We're not quite sure what the design is yet.
Yeah.
And it's really cool.
Yeah. We were talking a little before we started. With like Deadhouse Gates, I found it a lot easier to take notes before a video because groups were so separated and events were so separated. At a certain point towards the end of Deadhouse Gates, when everything starts converging, then it felt more like this, where it just was like, I found it so hard to separate the notes. I'd just be because I'd be halfway through the notes of like one group of characters and be like, oh, but that ties to this with this other group, and then that event also ties to this. And I will say that the beginning, I know a lot of people pitch Deadhouse to me as like it's so much easier to get into than Gardens of the Moon, which I didn't find. I found it just as hard. This one I am finding significantly easier, and maybe that is just because I'm used to it. I've done 2 books. I'm there. But, I think the nitty-gritty, there are a lot of details. I'm like, I don't know. But at least I have a very good idea of what's going on with, like, there's really just, I know there are 2 smaller groups as well, but there's one main group. I found it a lot easier to follow and get right in. Although I did find the prologue to be, it did feel like that. I'm like, I don't know who any of these people are. Obviously, we had learned about the Jagat and the Emos War, so that helped. But then specifically with Calor and the three gods and stuff, I was just like, all right. Surely it will be important because he's telling me this. But other than that, I just am gonna go with the flow. But yeah, let's jump into. We're doing great on time. We're gonna jump into chapter 1. Not really. I think so. For the rest of this, we're just gonna flow. Because like we said, it just kind of all goes together. We'll probably talk about stuff and be like, oh yeah, but that happened earlier, and then like going to the moon and Deadhouse and blah 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 blah. But we open. So I found it very interesting. We do open with a brand new group, brand new, at least from my memory. We had never met the caravan crew, as I call them. I think they're called in the persona whatever. The caravan Sari or something. Caravanserai.
Caravanserai, yeah.
Caravanserai. I call them the caravan crew.
Yep.
So, Gruntle, Harlow. Looking at my notes here. My favorite name, Stony Manakis. Yeah. Like, I feel like she's from New York City. I'm walking here. I'm Stony Manakis. Like, what a funny name. And these 3 people are basically, I think, hired mercenaries, I believe, working for someone named Karuli.
Mm-hmm. You kind of think about them almost like the crew from Deadhouse Gates, the sailing crew that we have.
Yeah.
They're essentially like that. Like they are they're old friends. They're soldiers from the same company, but they now work as mercenaries. But these are people who have fought together for a long time. They have a long history together, and that's what at least what it seems like. That's kind of the vibe they're sort of being given.
Very
but they
friendly.
operate as mercenaries.
Yeah, and so Karuli, who we don't really know much about, has hired them to protect him and his wagon on the path from Darujhistan to Kapistan. And so, but I found it notable that they are stuck at the bridge that raced brakes. And so all these caravans are just stuck there and can't cross. And even chapter 1 opens up with like, I don't remember the exact conversation, but one of them's like fishing for like their meal. And he's like, look, I caught a fish. And he's like, good job, buddy. Like you caught like a tiny, he's like, I could eat that in like one bite. And for whatever reason, I remember that conversation being very funny with the fish. But yeah,
the dynamic is great. It's just overall really great with that crew.
Yeah. I feel like, a few paragraphs in and I felt like I was like one of the crew. Like, they're just joking around. Yeah. And so he kind of gets pulled off by these other, or actually, I think Emancipor Reese comes up to him first. Like, hey, my boys want to talk to you, to Gruntle. And so Karuli is like, yeah, you should go with them. You should go with them. And there, we kind of meet these two guys for the first time who are really interesting. One's like tall and slim, and one's like kind of chubby and short. And they're just like on the, I don't know if they're just looking for knowledge. We don't really know exactly what they're looking for, but they talk about Moonspawn, and they're basically going into Wraith's Barrow to I don't know. I can't. Do you remember? Does it say what they're actually looking for?
Not really, and I don't even know that we could trust. I don't think we're supposed to necessarily trust what they're telling us,
especially after what we learned.
Yeah,
at the end of this part. But Gruntle's like, nah, I'm not going. Once they get to the Barrow, he's like, I'm good. See ya. So I don't know if they just they were like, hey, we want your protection. We heard good things. Emancipor Reese ain't, he can drive the wagon, but he's not good protection. So we need you to help us in there. He's like, no. And that kind of is where the scene ends. They look off into the distance and they see Moonspawn. And they're wondering, does Anomander Rake kind of see us? I think they're wondering, but we don't really get an answer. But that's really the first time we meet this whole group, which I loved it. I thought it was really cool that they were at the bridge. Like that's where they are, trying to leave town, trying to go to Kapistan. We don't know why at this point. We just know they're making a trek. And so any thoughts there?
Well, I do love, I kind of, as you said, I love that setting. It also reminded me of like the end of the first Avengers movie when like all the Avengers are just like in a busted up deli, like eating shawarma.
Yeah.
Except in this case, it's like, instead of it's like being the Avengers, it's like all of the regulars sitting around bitching about the Avengers destroying the deli.
Yep. Oh yeah, that's great.
I just love the whole setup, and the dynamic like for them is just really really great. Like as they move forward, and so I didn't know if you wanted to continue just kind of sticking with those characters.
Yeah, let's stick with them
because as it kind of moves forward, they have a really interesting journey. Where now that they're sort of journeying with Karuli, and sort of because of them being sort of stuck, it's almost like if you ever been stuck in like bumper to bumper traffic for a while. Like it takes a long time for it to like stop being awkward that you're stuck in like bumper to bumper traffic. So they're sort of all just traveling, even though they have their own individual contracts and everything. But yeah, so they're kind of leading Karuli along, and we sort of get to learn more about what Karuli is trying to do. We find out that he's another actor. Now, I say actor here in the more general sense. We believe he's a priest, but he's trying to stir up local dissentiment against the Pranin Domini. So he's kind of, in some sense, like doing the exact same thing.
The Pranin Domini. We're back.
What is it?
I think it's the Panyan Domin or something. But that's okay.
I'm
the one that spiraled us into the Tassacrin, and like someone called me out on it, and so this time when they mentioned him, I was like, let me look at the spelling, and it's like Tashrin or something like that. I'm like Tassacrin.
That's how I would always say too.
Yeah. So I've spiraled us there.
Yeah, the Danny Poman,
Panera Bread.
The Panera Bread. yeah, so the Panion Domin, so we call it the Panion, whatever. So, but he's trying to stir up, basically dissent, like he's trying to stir people against this force, and he's particularly targeting criminal elements. He's trying to kind of gather up criminal elements to operate not as one coalition, but actually as sort of a front of mutually interested parties.
Yeah. It's warfare, but not with it's warfare of information. It's
like subterfuge.
Yeah.
And so it doesn't seem like we're meant to understand. We're not meant to know yet whether or not he works with Whiskey Jack or Do Jack or the Distant Andy we don't know. But we just know that he's not a fan of this group that's coming.
Yeah. So in theory, an ally.
In theory, an ally.
In theory, yeah. He's also got really good hearing.
Yeah. He could be a Talon or an assassin of some sort. He makes a point to say that he has the skills to get into a town currently under siege without being detected, which is pretty impressive.
Yep.
So he could be a Talon or an assassin of some sort. He could actually be an assassin from the Assassin's Guild in Trujillo. That's possible. Although he does have magical abilities as well. So more likely to be the case that he's a Talon or something similar to that, a Claw, or something similar to that. But we don't really know.
Yeah. So the next time we see them, they cross. They've crossed. They did it. They waded through. Yep. Everything was good. And which again, it cuts. I think it's literally Gruntle. Like they basically rock paper scissors to who gets to drive the wagon, who gets to push. And so Gruntle's like kind of chuckling because he got to drive, and the other two are like muddy and disgusting. But then we meet a new character who I guess we'll call him Buke.
Buke. Yep.
Or Buki.
Buke. I think it's Buke.
I don't know. There's a strong argument for Buki. So Buke, who I gotta say, I think Buke is gonna be a favorite for me. Okay. I love Buke's story. He's this, guy that he was an alcoholic and lost his family because he was drunk one night, and just his family burned and he wasn't there. And now he is set on helping people, but really putting himself in a position to die in like a not a blaze of glory, but like go down in like not chivalry either, but like you know what I'm saying, like he wants to die doing good, but he does want to die.
Yeah, like he feels the need to continue to take on more and more dangerous tasks, like increasingly dangerous tasks that are for good reasons.
Yep.
But he just feels this compulsion to take on things that are good but extremely dangerous.
Yeah.
So it'd almost be like in a way of like if a firefighter in some sense like kept taking on like more and more dangerous fires. Like that's a good thing. They're saving lives or fighting fires, but he's like sort of increasing the chances that he gets himself
he wants to go. He does not want to be alive, but he doesn't want to just be a nothing until he dies. He wants So automatically I'm already like I love Buke. And so Buke was working for this guy, or we don't really know, this other person who was on the contract whose wagon did not make it across the river. It fell apart, and the dude that he was working for just peaced out. He went home. He went back to Tajikistan. So Buke no longer has a contract, doesn't get paid. And so Emancipor Reese comes up to him and is like, hey, my boys over here want to hire you. And so Buke's like, yeah. And then we find out later, because Buke and Gruntle have a history, they know each other. Buke basically says, hey, outside of Darujistan, there's basically a serial killer in Darujistan killing all these people. And I'm pretty sure it's that guy. And it's Corporal Broach. He thinks Corporal Broach was this murderer. And so he is going to eventually, he takes on the job because he eventually wants to, I think, take out Corporal Broach, which is already interesting. We don't know if that's true, at least from my understanding. Although what we learn about Corporal Broach and Boshelin later, it's a little sus, with them being one of them a necromancer. Does seem like they could be using, but they could just be using the dead bodies.
Yeah.
Well, we don't really know.
Yeah, I think it's meant to be sort of ambiguous. It's like, well, he could be a serial killer. He might also just be, performing necromancy, and so then these deaths are attached to him, even though they're sort of they're all different deaths for different reasons. Like maybe some accidents, maybe some, back alley crime. It could also be the case too that, because if you remember when the Malazans were invading, it was part of their principle to engage the criminal elements, specifically to put a bounty on all of the different council members so large that the Assassin's Guild couldn't refuse.
Yeah.
And so Anamanor Rake like ordered the assassination of everyone in the Assassin's Guild. Presumably people wouldn't know who the Assassin's Guild members are because like even like one of them's like a shopkeep, right? Mm-hmm. So imagine that the Tystiandi figure out who these people are. It's not like they're going to wait for them to be in their criminal element. They're just going to find ways to kill them. So that's another thing is like these serial killings could have actually just been from that.
Yeah.
Right.
I think what a notable coincidence that Buke brings up is that as soon as Boscelin and Corporal Broach left Darujhistan, the killing stopped, which is certainly a little sus.
It is. Also, the same time, most of the well, also in Gardens of the Moon, after the Tystiandi did their thing, a lot of the mages were kicked out of town.
Yeah,
which presumably might have included these guys, even if because I don't really know where necromancy falls on people's moral and ethics list. You know, I would assume most people don't like it.
Yeah.
But like, I don't necessarily know that you would be jailed or killed on the spot just because you might be affiliated with necromancy. Like, we don't know.
Yeah.
And but like we were told that during these events in Gardens of the Moon that a lot of the mages were being moved out. And we find that out because Anamanor Rake was specifically looking for mages that had fled from Pale. And Baruch delivers their heads because he doesn't want them to be murdered by Dragnipur because he views that as a worse death than being beheaded.
Fair.
It
is.
Fair. Yep.
I'm curious. So obviously we'll continue talking about what happens with them, but how are you feeling about Boscelin and Corporal Broach? Because I'm feeling like I think they're gonna be a force for good, personally.
It feels like that twist is coming. I'm a little bit concerned right now that I don't even know if they survive that long. We'll see, but I'm concerned right now that they're going to be trying to do good and set off something that is then going to be this chaotic element. Like I'm worried that there's going to add like this third element they're going to deal with, where like maybe a new dragon gets put into play, or some undead start coming back, or something like that. But
the other one summons demons, so demons and undead combined, not a match made in heaven.
No. But that's kind of what I feel like is going to happen. It's going to be this, we might get this element of like, well, we're in a tight spot, and so even though that thing might kill us, we'll take it, right? Like I wonder if we're going to get some situation like that where there's they are sort of aligned, but it feels like they want something, and I don't know. I feel like what they want is not going to go over well.
It almost just feels like they. It kind of reminds me of Duker, where he is a historian. These guys kind of almost just feel like they're out for like knowledge, maybe.
Yeah.
And because we don't know why they're going. I mean, it seems like they are on the path to Capistan as well, because that's where Caerulli's going, and they keep running across them ahead of them. So it's not like they're following Caerulli or anything. So we don't know why they're going where they're going, but just with them like wanting to just excavate the Barrow, they're curious about Moonspawn. What we find out with them, what they're doing with the Kachane, whatever. It almost just feels like they're like the Darwins of Malazan a little bit.
I just can't get over the fact that we learned from Quickbend that he had attempted to go to a Rivi barrow, which had been cleaned out, and then we find out that they cleaned out a barrow. And so now I'm wondering if they've been cleaning out many different barrows looking for something. And then I have to ask myself, like, why is it that they're specifically looking at these barrows in this land?
Yeah.
And then I'm also thinking about the prologue as well of like, is it possible that the events of the prologue took place, like specifically the events around the Jaghut, took place in this area? Right? We know the Jaghut Tyrant was imprisoned here.
Well, didn't we learn, though, that... I know the Jaghut Tyrant was imprisoned here, but didn't we learn in Deadhouse we kind of got to that forest, and that's where like the walls of ice were raised on Seven Cities continent?
Right, but that happened in a lot of places. In fact, even remember too that like it even happened in Warrens. The Simp God, right, had been, that was also the Jaghut who had, like, you know, encased the Simp God, which is one of those things too that also shows us that the Jaghuts, it really does feel like the Tel'Anumas are the bad guys, but the Jaghut do possibly represent an existential threat.
The bad Jaghuts are bad. I mean, the
bad ones are bad. Real bad.
Yeah. To where I could see, like, I mean, you know, I could not get behind. I understand why their logic is like, well, your kind of can lead to this, and the safest thing is just wipe y'all out, so there aren't going to be any more tyrants.
They made
I don't support it.
So I can kind of get behind.
No. Cut that out.
Cut the mic. Cut the mic. Okay, so, but yeah, YouTube's having a fun day with this one. No, I'm just kidding. So anyway, but it does. I can't like get over the fact that's like there seems to be, you know, that maybe the stars are aligning on this one. Maybe they're not.
I feel like they're just like archaeologists or something.
Yeah, but there's definitely like something, and since they might be going through multiple barrows, it does lead one to wonder what it is that they're looking for. And potentially they're looking for knowledge, but that knowledge might be very dangerous.
Yeah,
and so that's what I'm worried about.
Yeah, I hope they don't turn out to be bad. They're kind of fun characters, or interesting at the very least.
Yeah,
but yeah. So after they cross, they hire Buke. They go to they kind of separate the two wagons. And Karuli and Gruntle and Co. They go to a town. I think it's called Saltoan. I'll need to check my notes. Let's see. They go to Saltoan. And basically, which is just like a really such a cool. Every time we get to a new city, he always paints such a cool picture. I love the fact that there's like this through the entry gate. You take your wagon, and the walls are like coated in like shit, like literal shit. But the rule is it's just the rule. If your wagon gets stuck because the walls are so close together, you get looted. Period. Yeah. Too bad, so sad. That's the rules. It's just like that's just a hilarious thing to me in like this trading like market. That's like you better hope your wagon. You know, everyone's just every time a wagon comes through, everyone's like waiting to see if it gets stuck. It's just like why would you go there? But they make it through. Another humorous part is like, even if it is too wide, there's enough shit on the walls to like slide us through. And I'm just like, Jesus Christ, it's great. But yeah, basically this is that meeting that Karuli he basically is like, here's what we need to do. This is when we first find out kind of what he's doing. We need to spread disinformation against the Panyan Domin because they're bad. And really bad. And I think this is when they also start talking about... is this when they start talking... I can't remember when we first find out about the... oh, man, what are they called? They are called the Teniscowry, who are like this peasant...
for the Panyans?
For the Panyans, yeah. I can't remember if Karuli mentions it to them as well. But someone asks... I thought someone asked him about the
They were brought up. I think they were brought up first.
They're brought up with Whiskey Jack.
With Whiskey Jack, and then we find out about it again during this conversation, and it goes even further.
Yeah, this is the Children of the Dead Seed, right?
Yeah.
Which is crazy. So, would you take it away? What are the Children of the Dead Seed, Ian?
So. So basically, this is kind of like the way I see this is it's like the morally worst possible version you could ever imagine of the Inglourious Bastards. That's the way I think about this. It's like there is a peasant like army which is essentially sent in and they're just told like, hey, look, we're just sending you where the enemy is, and it's up to you to fend for yourself. Find your food, find your weapons, figure out how to survive. You're on your own. So they have to like figure out how to eat, figure out how to supply themselves, figure out how to keep their people alive, have new babies, right? Like they have to survive, but they are also like there to destroy things for the Banyan.
But isn't it notable that they are some like basically when the Banyan Domin come to a city, they take it over, and the peasants, the people of that city, they're like, I mean, basically we could kill you, or we could join the Tenascowry. So it's like these are people from cities previously sacked by the Banyan Domin, which makes it so much worse that like it just takes that small amount of time to. It just really is that like survival. But this part, I don't know if I don't know if I get this part. This part of it, they're like food and water. Do we need to do? I mean, but this part.
Yeah. So, which the character type I'm most related to is the Ravagers from Firefly series. I think it's called the Ravagers, but essentially they become these like crazed people, and I'm not even sure if like Tenascowry are necessarily a faction. They might just be a general term for all people that basically go through this. It's like it might be like a class in a way. It's like the lowest of the low, right? And but they are basically people that are forced into savagery, and savagery of all kinds. So cannibalism, massacres, rape, and it's even said in this particular case that like even the dying on the battlefields are like going to be raped, and then they call that like
the dead,
the recently dead,
the recently dead.
So that's what they have. And they claim that like this has even led to members of Tenascowry getting pregnant and having children. They're called the children of the dead seed.
Okay, but bro, why aren't they just like sleeping with each other?
Well, because clearly it'd be Tenascowry incest at that point.
And they draw the line. Yeah. Oh my gosh, yeah. It's not funny. Oh, this is a cut that episode, but for real, like I don't get it. Like I really do. I think you're right. I think they have just like they're just like shells of who they once were. Because like it doesn't make any sense that like 3 months ago, oh, my city got destroyed, and now I have to be a part of this to survive. Which first of all, just leave, and second of all, like what is turning you to this extreme? Like, so yeah, I think you're right. I think there's something with. I mean, this isn't just a religion; it's a cult, and there are some powers at work here.
Yeah,
that
I think that's it. There's powers at work. They have a way of doing this to people.
Yeah, but it's very the fact that when they first get brought up with Whiskey Jack, they're like, I hear they're cannibals, and he's like, someone's like, yeah, that's the best of it. And I was just like, wow, that's not good. And then we learn about the Children of the Dead Sea. It's like, wow, yeah, that's not good. So, yeah. Anyways, we'll talk about them more. The Panyans, the Panera Bread later. Yeah. But he basically Kaluni, what's his name? George Kaluni. Karuli.
Karuli, yeah.
Gives this speech in Sautoan. And then they leave. There's a couple other things that happen, but really that is the point of them going there. It's kind of like a stop on the way to Capistan. They leave on basically everyone goes, except for Gruntle, who stays behind because this city is known for basically chasing after wagons and then going and like raiding. And so he stays, but no one goes. So he then follows, finds some dead raider bodies on the way. He's like, those are some dead bodies. I wonder if they ran into them. And then catches up with the crew and meets up. They meet up with these three Barghast from specifically the Whiteface clan.
Yep.
Who is notable, which we'll talk about with Piran and that whole thing. But whose names are Hitan, Kafel, and Nitok. Which I probably nailed 0 of those 3, but and we kind of just learn they're not with them for too long. I love this is kind of the first time we learned about Barghast in their like culture, which is hilarious. Like she just, I mean, they just want to have sex and fight. Like, that's it. And Steven Erikson, I guess I wouldn't have put on my bingo card. There's going to be like dick-sized jokes in this book. And she's just like, I've noticed you got big hands. And I just found that hilarious. Like the humor just really worked for me. And yeah, I just thought it was great. But we also kind of learned throughout this whole thing that Stony Manakis and Buke might. Stony definitely has feelings for Buke. Seems like Buke might as well, but is kind of not acting on them. But so is something you want to mention?
Oh, I love the fact that in that dynamic, it also just works really well because you have Stony like gets offended.
Oh yeah,
by who they choose to mate with. Like she gets offended on behalf of other people that they would get like chosen over. Well, it just cracks me up.
Yeah, and she's like, "You're just gonna do it right here." When the literal previous night, she's like getting fingered by whatever the lady in the other during this meeting. With everyone around watching, she's just like getting pleasured. But then she takes offense that they're gonna sleep with each other outside the campfire. It's like, bro, like, come on now.
And then she's like, Harlow is the last person that should be chosen. You know, she's like, she should have chosen you first.
Yeah.
And then he's like, oh well, actually.
Yeah.
And I love that too. It's just like, no, it's because he's got big hands. At least that's what she said last night.
Yeah.
And then she's like, wait, she was with you? And you're like, you were just saying that like she should have got it. It's just like that whole dynamic just makes this so great because you just have these like stone face, like we're acting on these things now because we're in this moment.
Yeah.
But they're totally stone faced about it. And then you have this crew who's just like all over the place, bouncing around, and they're just sort of living it up. And I love that dynamic because you do often see, and like we saw this with like Viga in like Joe Abercrombie's work, you often see this sort of approach to like you make a character who's like a Viking. They're like bigger, they're stronger, they're badder, and you're gonna make them seem really Danish. And then all of a sudden, it's also they plunder, they kill, right? They live in the moment. Everything is hedonistic, and they're like full of life, and like that's what hedonism is. And so I love this like dynamic where you have these characters like full of life and they're just trying to live, and then you have these other characters who are like very much in the moment, they're like totally stone faced by everything. They don't even get jokes. They're like humor is like beyond them.
Yeah, she's just like, I love to ride men. I love riding men. Just like matter of fact. Yeah, that's how it is.
Her like invitation is like so like monotone that like at first he's not even really sure, right?
Yeah.
He's like I think that was an invitation.
Yeah. And then Stony gets mad that they're doing it. She's like, fine. Well, I'm going to have sex too. He goes up to Buke and she's like, let's go. And he's just like, no, I think we won't. She's like, fine. I'll go with the one of the, I don't know, remember if it's
I think it was
Nitok, yeah, whatever. She's just like, is just to like spite Gruntle and Harlow and Buke. It's just like, fine, well, I'm just gonna sleep with someone. And it's just like, meanwhile, we've learned I can't remember this is they've already caught up with because Buke is with Boschlin and Corporal Broach, so they've already caught up with them. And before they catch up with them, Hatan does mention to Gruntle that they are hunting demons. That there are these demons that they're hunting that have swords for arms, and not good. So that's all we know about them for right now. And then she also kind of teaches Gruntle about some Barghast traditions, specifically with their dead, that when they bury, I don't know if it's only when they bury people with like magical ability or what, but they kind of come across these upside down tree trunks. It's like the roots almost coming out of the ground, and that's what they pin down the bodies with like an upside down tree, and then put other traps around it so the spirits can't escape and or be like taken. So we learned that. And then, of course, they I can't remember. She might be telling him because they come across a couple of them. Then they come across the other wagon that has been kind of not destroyed, but broken. Clearly attacked by these demons because there's like sword marks and stuff. But also notably, one of these tree trunks has been kind of not pulled up, and
essentially, I guess you can't really say uprooted. Because,
whatever you want to call it.
Upleaved. It's been upleaved.
Yeah, upleaved. Yeah, but then I can't. So I'm curious how you read into this, but Gruntle goes and looks in the wagon, and there's like, I think, the dead body that they dug up, that we then later find out they have transferred the soul from this body into basically another hairlock, or like a kind of like a stick. I can't remember what they call it, a stick something.
Yeah, almost like a marionette doll, or
so is that what that body was? It was like the dead body of what they dug up of the mage or whatever.
And it's like oozing and things like that too. Disgusting. And they've I think I was maybe misunderstanding some of it too, but it also seemed like they had put organs into it as a part of this process,
like a Frankenstein kind of thing going
on. So it was it's been really very shocking, right? Like, it's like no person in their right mind would do this.
Yeah, at first when I was reading it, I thought this was the result of someone dying from the demons, and I was like, what who was this, like what happened? But really it just seems like, it was Boschlin and Corporal Broach, like that's what it was them putting this Barghast mage into a stick figure person. So then they just come back. I can't remember where they went, but they just come back from wherever they were and tell them, these things are coming back, and we're going to have a problem. So we need to get ready to defend. And they're going to come back soon. We've got our little stick figure here he's out looking or can sense when they're near enough to warn us, but very little warning. Once we get that warning, they're practically here. And then they camp and they all bang. And then the demons come, which I did ask you this about before we started recording, but I'm curious, anyone out there, are we? I know what these which we find out they aren't demons. They are from the Kachane Chamal. I wrote it down because it's like, how on earth we gonna remember that. So let's see. They are the Kachane Chamal Kell Hunters. So I guess that's a race, the Kachane Chamal. But they are basically raptors. They're raptors. They're dinosaurs with helms and armor. They're undead, but they're very lizard-like. They got the talons. So I don't know if I would have known that they were specifically raptors had I not. It's one of those things that when people on the videos, should you read Malazan? They're like, it's got cool magic and political intrigue and raptors with swords for arms. And it's always one of those things that gets brought up. So I've been kind of waiting for that. And so we got the raptors with swords for arms, which I think when I had heard that, I was thinking that sounds kind of silly, but also cool. But then the way that they're introduced, they're terrifying. They're huge. They're almost like T-Rexes, basically, the size of they're twice the height of a human as a raptor. So that's them leaning over and stuff. But they show up, and that's kind of where we leave them. We don't really know what happens. Harlow kind of goes down, but not dead. He kind of saves Gruntle by putting his sword in front, but his sword breaks, and the sword kind of shatters into his face and chest, and blood goes everywhere. But I couldn't tell if it was a death or just shards. And then
Gruntle,
it didn't seem like one. And then Gruntle gets picked up and thrown, and then he's being stepped on by one of these. And then he's basically all right, I'm dying. And to the point where he's I'm dying. This is so cruel. Why can't I even feel anything anymore? And it's that's probably because we hear screaming and stuff, but it cuts to black, and maybe that can go to our predictions, but I think we just talk about it here. I think he's been saved at this point. I don't think we're going to lose Gruntle in this moment.
No, I don't think so either. I mean, it does feel like the way it's presented is sort of he had his chest plate crushed in. He's certainly not in great shape, but it seems like he's still savable. And it's very much we're trying to get sort of that tick down to black, but it feels like this sort of setup where then we'll come back and something will have happened. They'll have been saved, and these creatures will have been scared off. Right, Buke comes in, right. Yeah, and like it with these creatures, it does make a lot of sense that they are creatures because it was heavily implied that their arms had to be forged, like these blade arms
Mm-hmm.
had to be like forged to like get the hardness that they're at. And so it also is like cool too that we get that sort of idea of like these had to be like forged in like frozen blood, like when they're like cooled to get like what to get as hard as they are.
Isn't that
And
how
then
they
we're
make
told
the connection to them being Kachane Shamal because of that forging of like metal to
Yep.
body?
Yep. And so then it's like no wonder when they use normal conventional weapons and then just get broken, right? Because we're already sort of set up to think these are like this is like extremely hard and dense material, right? And so
We also
that
know
was
that
very, very cool.
we do learn. I think it's from Karuli, or I can't remember exactly, but we do know that these are working for the Panyan-Domin.
Yeah, that they're like almost like scouts.
Yeah, like scouts, which is even crazier because then we also learn that the Rent and Morn is Kachal, or what Kachane Shamal Warren. So then it's like, well, so then are the Panyan-Domin all Kachane Shamal? And was this beast that fell part of this Panyan-Domin? Or like, it's all connected somehow, seemingly.
Yeah, seemingly, yeah.
But yeah, I did forget for a second that they are part of the Panyan-Domin, which yeah is very interesting. But yeah, we kind of just leave it there. I'm excited. I'm very excited to see more of these creatures. I didn't know. I don't know why I assumed, but I just assumed that they were going to be working for the good guys. But it makes a lot of sense that these undead raptors with swords for arms aren't easily swayed to work for good. But I'm a little sad about it. It would have been cool. Yep. Chris Pratt comes in and
come on, Blue, come on.
Yeah.
I have not watched the new one, but maybe that's the big reveal in the new Jurassic Park.
It could be. I haven't watched the new one either. Poor Scarlett Johansson.
Yeah,
just disappointing. But
yeah.
So that Any other thoughts on that whole crew? Do you have like I don't know. Yeah, I guess we could talk about like.
Well, I think it's at least one other thing that's maybe worth mentioning is I'm pretty sure that we're also supposed to think that Emery, I think it was Emery what was the full name, but they call him like Emery.
Emery.
Well, the other guy, the guy that recruited Buke.
Oh, yes. Emancipor Reese.
Emancipor, and they call him Emmy, I think.
Yeah.
We're supposed to think that he's dead, right?
Yes.
I think the Raptors
because Buke comes back and he's like, he even like nicknames him, like they've gotten really close. Yeah, I forgot about that. Reese.
So I think we are supposed to believe he's dead.
Mm-hmm.
But we don't know about the rest of the crew as of right now.
Yeah. So that's our shortest crew, or maybe second shortest, because the Talk crew is also pretty short. So maybe we get into that, and then we get to the big talk after that. Maybe we probably should maybe speed up a little bit. We are an hour and a half.
Yeah, and I think really we could just kind of briefly go through Talk. I don't know that there's a whole lot that we need to go into there, and then we could just focus on.
But there's so much stuff.
But it'll keep coming up too.
I know.
But then, just for time's sake, we probably just want to focus on Silver Fox and Piran after that. That could be kind of a big part because it felt like that was like the centerpiece that's being placed.
Yeah, but there's so much.
One.
We got to talk about it. We'll just go fast. All right. Talk.
There you go.
Talk wakes up.
Okay.
Talk wakes up. We find out he's in Morn. We find out. And he meets up with Tool. And he's like, I got to go north. I got to go to Darujistan. And Tool's like, all right. We'll forge weapons along the way, and as they're about to leave, this lady appears, and who we find out is a Lady Envy, who was the daughter of Draconis, and she's got these 3 servants, these Segula. I don't know if that's how you say it. Yep, Segula, which are great as well. Another new like race or people. I'm not really sure. They basically like wear this armor, and the more marks they have on their armor, the farther down the chain they are. And so they are like, they have to, if they're like intimidated, they basically have to fight. And so we find out that they're so not intimidated by Talk that they don't attack him. But one by one, really only 2 of the 3, but they attack Tool and they fight. And Tool kind of spares them over the time. But we found out Tool's like a badass fighter.
Yeah.
because the second one, who's like he's not the strongest of the three. The strongest of the three has not fought Tool yet, but the second strongest of the three fights Tool, and it's like this crazy fight. Even Lady Envy is like, "Wow, that was an incredible fight," and Tool was like, "Yeah, it was pretty crazy for me using the flat side of my sword," and like the other Sigula are like, "What? Like that was you using the flat side of your sword?" So Tool's like a badass.
Yep. Which also makes sense. I mean, we're talking about a guy who has been fighting wars for hundreds of thousands of years.
Yeah.
And so.
But they start on Barrows too. Mm-hmm. Talk starts on a Barrow, and he notes one of like, man, something big crawled out of that one. Which.
Well, I thought that was the Jagu Tyrant. Maybe I'm
no, because he's in Morn at this part.
Oh yeah.
So I don't know which is where the rent was. So maybe that thing fell down, and that's what crawled out. But yeah, I did find that to be pretty interesting. But other than that, they're kind of just traveling, and we learn about Lady Envy's past. She's been around for a while. She used to travel with Kaladin Brood and with Anomander Rake and this other guy or thing. I wrote it down. He's a soul taken. It's like Osiric, I want to say. I don't remember where I wrote it down. I want to say it's Osiric. I think I wrote it in the plot section. Yes, Osiric, who is a soul taken, to be with those three is notable. So I think that's a name that's going to come up again. But as of right now, don't really know. And then at some point, Brood pieced out, came back with a giant hammer, which is also notable. And then
pieced out for a long time.
For a long time, yeah. And then just reappeared with this giant hammer. And then the other big thing that he pointed out, or she pointed out, and actually I can't remember. This might be Tool saying this, like he has this knowledge. I don't think she's telling them. I think Tool points it out. I can't remember though. But basically, when the crippled god was chained to Burn, chained up, Lady Envy and Anomander Rake, notably, were not a part of that. They chose to not take part of that. Don't know why. Don't know if it's going to have any consequences or what, but I did find that notable, that they chose to not take part of that. Yeah. I think that's it for them.
Yeah.
Oh, well, high level. And if anything you want to add.
Well, I think it's kind of interesting too, because it also just, I think right now at this point it kind of seems like it's meant to leave us wondering if Anomander Rake and Envy, if they sort of saw the implications, because what we're going to find out the more we learn about Brood, which Brood is like, he's like so much more epic than we were led to believe in Guardians of the Moon. Mm-hmm. Like he's actually in some ways like more epic than Anomander Rake, which is crazy.
He is. He's more important than him, I think, or he's got more, not just like one little thing he could do is crazy.
Yeah. Because he's not just a warlord. Like he's actual ascended, and him at his lowest point of basically like not acting as an ascendant is him being the avatar for Burn, like for a god, right? Which is just like crazy. But yeah, it does make you wonder if Anomander Rake suspected that by chaining the crippled god to Burn, that this might lead to a choose between two evils situation, and so they're just like, nah, if you know what, if you're gonna do this, but like we're not.
Did they 100% chain the crippled god to Burn? I guess that was my interpretation, but they could have just chained him up, because now when they
imprison him, but the kind of the problem that we see though is it's like sort of like Burn's responsibility. Because remember, Burn she's not asleep when the corrupted god assaults her.
She goes to sleep. She goes to sleep.
Exactly. She goes to sleep, and we're sort of told it's like getting a fever. Like she's going to sleep to preserve herself longer, so that way hopefully the poison, the corruption can be rid from her. And she takes measures to ensure that like, you know, Kaladin Brood can help her in the future if that's needed.
Yeah, if that fails, if they fail to take out the crippled god and beat the poison, then literally he will crack the hammer and destroy the earth. Yep. And that's literally it. And it's so, they make a point to say like it's pretty inconsequential to Burn. She's like, I'll just start another one. But everyone on Earth is like, oh shit, that's bad. because we will all die.
Yep.
Like he can just swing that hammer once, and everyone on the Earth will die, or whatever you want. I don't know if they call it Earth, whatever their planet is
called. The base of the planet, right? They would destroy. I mean, it would basically like break the planet.
Yeah.
And yeah, but that's like what it takes to like rid the corrupted god. And so I wonder. It just seems like there's a lot of implications here. Of like Anomander Rake may not want to participate in the imprisonment or the destruction of a god, especially one that is currently fractured, and that's kind of one of the reasons why it's being purged. And like it was like torn apart, like it's like in pieces. But there also seems to be some implication that like Burn, like he doesn't want Burn or doesn't like Burn being a part of this process. But it's interesting that he was against it, and now we're led to this dichotomy where it's like either the corrupted god kills the Warrens and Burn, which probably kills everything else too, or we just kill everything else, right?
Yeah, it's like a lose-lose. But also notably, I think this could probably lead into kind of talks of the other people, but going back to connections with the Panyan-Domin, they use the Warren of Chaos. Who else uses the Warren of Chaos? The Crippled God. But then another really cool, I love this connection that we learned, that the Great Ravens were, so the Crippled God fell at some point. I don't know if we know, I'm guessing that was when he was freed from his chains. He fell. I don't know. Because he's been freed, right? Like he's not chained up anymore.
He didn't just fell. He was like ripped apart. Yeah, that's how he was freed. Yeah,
and like from that, the Great Ravens were born. So they are parts of the Crippled God, and they like feed off of like sorcery. They I can't remember what it says. They almost like consume sorcery. They devour sorcery. Is what I wrote. Yeah.
They can essentially do the same thing that he can do, like as a god. Like they have the ability to devour sorcery, essentially to corrupt the source of that sorcery and to consume it. And that's essentially what he does. Is he's not just like a virus that's attempting to multiply. He's like almost like a fungus.
He's like cancer. That's basically
he exactly eats away at the very thing, and so he sustains himself by eating away. And so in his case, he goes after gods and warrens. He goes after the source of sorcery. Mm-hmm. Whereas like the Ravens aren't feeding off of warrens, but they could, for example, feed off of sorcerers, and they could break enchantments and things like this, presumably.
Yeah, but it's really interesting that Crone has been, who's the leader of the Great Ravens, or the head of the Great Ravens. Firstborn is very adamant about Anomander Rake not finding this out. He does not know this, and he doesn't want Crone doesn't want anyone to know, really, because he's afraid that will then make them enemies to the T-Standee and to Anomander. But Silver Fox knows. Silver Fox has this knowledge, and how.
Well, and the Tista Andy know as well. They do.
Wait, they do?
Yeah, they do. So, because Colette reveals that. That is actually
I thought it was Silver Fox that did. She's like about to say it, and Crone's like, no.
Yeah, no, Silver Fox is about to say it, and then later on, I think it was Colette. They're like, well, Crone doesn't think we know, but we actually.
Oh, I see.
And that's actually because the revelation is, and that Crone is right to be suspicious, because part of the reason why Anomander Rake and Kaladin Brood both keep Crone very close is because they want to make sure they can keep an eye on her, because they know what the Great Ravens can do.
That makes sense.
Yeah.
Yeah, I really like that, though, because to me, like, again, I think this is going to happen a lot, where I was like, there's a lot of parts of Gardens of the Moon that felt like Steven Erikson put it in there for like a cool. And now I'm like, no, everything has like meaning and consequence. And maybe it didn't at the time, but it seems like it did. So I really like that we're getting more of I didn't think we'd get any more Great Ravens. Like I just thought it was like a one and done kind of thing, but really important now. But let's talk about arguably the most important character in the book, Silver Fox. Because this is like, it's like a third war, right? We got the war of like the Crippled God and the Warrens against like everybody. Then we've got the war of the Panyan-Domin versus everybody. And then we have a war inside of Silver Fox between Tattersail and Nightchill. And maybe they're not warring each other, But the people on the outside are like, we need to bring this party forward. Like, we need to bring, specifically, I think everyone here wants Tattersail to be at the forefront of this vessel or whatnot, which I find just really compelling of, like, what's that going to be like? Is there going to be more of, like, a internal mental battle? What we learned about Nightchill, she's got way more experience than Tattersail. Is Nightchill just chilling, waiting for the right moment? Yeah, no, I did it.
I think, well, so, and I think like what was implied too is that she's weakened, right? Is like Tattersail she was herself when she died, whereas Nightchill had been dead, she had been torn apart, so, but
I had a question about that so in Gardens of the Moon, my memory of it was that, right, all that stuff happens. Tattersail comes across Belladin in an alleyway with like the sack of the body parts of Nightchill, and she basically like helps him, sends him off, was my recollection, and then she ends up following, and then they kind of meet up, and then that.
Well, they don't kind of meet up. She's chasing after the adjunct.
Yeah, Lorn,
and he had been ordered by Taskrin to stop her and arrest her.
To stop.
And then she stop Tattersail.
Okay, that's what I had the question, because I didn't remember that, but that's what Whiskey Jack says, and I was like, did that actually happen, or is he like bullshitting? Okay.
No, so he shows up, and basically like Taskrin like goes to him and says like, no, you need to bring her back. She's gone off she's lost the plot, and so but Beleren knows her well enough that he knows exactly how she's going to travel, and he makes this like perfect prediction, and I think he even says something like, I thought you'd be here sooner, kind of thing. But he like perfectly predicts like when she'll come out of her warren, and he's like ready. He's like, yep, here you are. I knew you'd be here, and I have to take you back. And then she tries to convince him. She's like, hey, look, Taskrin's not who you think he is. He's the reason why we were attacked. Like, he's responsible for Nightchill. He's like, and he basically tells her, he's like, that may be true, but like, I still got to take you back. We can figure this all out together. And she basically says, like, you're either going with me or I'm going through you.
Okay.
And then that's when they fight, and he gets the better of her, in part because they're too close to Tool. Right. And so, and so Tool, which is, I really like, I want to like learn more about why he can do what he can do. But like looking back, I wonder if part of Tool's abilities are because he's clanless. Because we actually learned a little about clanless T'Lana Moss in Deadhouse Gates, and Tool was the first clanless T'Lana Moss that we're introduced to. And at the time, it sort of seems like it was meant to be this introduction is to show us that T'Lana Moss are dangerous, really dangerous, but it's like they're kind of scarce, right? There's not really many of them. And that's like, you can convey that pretty well by saying, oh, well, here's this guy, you just met him, he's T'Lana Moss, but he's like the last of his clan, right?
Dude, I can't, sorry to interrupt you, but I do think it's important. He is name dropped in the prologue. Tool. He is the brother of somebody. I can't find it now.
Is he the brother of Kalava?
He might be. Or Pranchol. He's the brother of somebody, but they call him by like the Amtos Toolan or whatever. Oh, I can't find it. But
it might be.
I do remember it being like, oh, that's Tool. Like, this is important. Oh man, I wish I could find it.
Yeah.
We can talk about it. We'll talk about it later. But that does happen at some. Oh, here we go. So at the very, very end, to break the link into Chief Freedom, yes, alas, my eldest brother's skills more than matched mine. Yet now we are both free, though what I celebrate, Onos Ta'ulan curses.
Yep. So he's the brother.
So she's the brother of Kalava.
Yep.
Which is crazy. That is very significant. And yeah, I mean, it's so quick that you could just miss it.
Yeah. And then kind of going, sorry to keep hashing up other things, but
I knew we would.
Pran Cole, right? So Pran Cole is the one who talks to Kalava and hears about Onos Tulan, right? oh, you're the Defier, you're the one who killed your clan, right? Pran Cole is the one who was there with Croup in the dream when they saw Tattersail and Bellerand die when Tattersail goes into Nightchill. Now, keeping in mind, too, that there had been the sealing spell cast over her. So what Nightchill is trying to do, or sorry, what Tattersail is trying to do is she's trying to like marionette herself like a Hairlock did, like they did with Hairlock. And we find out that this doesn't work out. And I think the reason why it doesn't work out is because it was Nightchill. I think it doesn't work because she chose Nightchill.
But she didn't know who Nightchill actually was.
Yeah, exactly. And so I think what it seems like is like Nightchill, because of this curse, like she dies, she's like meant to come back. And maybe it's because of who she is, or maybe because of this curse, because she's an older goddess, but like she's meant to come back. And so she comes back through the Rivi people, but now she's like entwined with Tattersail because of this. This all happens, right? Because they burn up in the sort of this emanating aura of Anos Toulon, that he kind of messes with the Warrens. And I've always kind of wondered if maybe he could do that because maybe because of who he is, but maybe because he's clanless or something. But he has this ability to disrupt their Warrens, and it causes them to basically burn up. And so I just found it really interesting that like Pran Cole's like, I saw the future, right? But then he's like, he's there in that moment as a Talani Mas, like witnessing them die, witnessing Nightchill be like reborn through the Rivi people, like seeing Ulan, Anos Toulon, he's seeing them going after the Jagged Tyrant, like he's there witnessing all of that with Croup, right, through that whole experience. And so it's like, that's what got me thinking, is like, could it be the case that like him seeing the future, like could it be that like the Pran Cole that was talking to Croup isn't just a present Pran Cole, but there is like a feedback into the Pran Cole that was there at that time, talking to Kalava, who takes on the Ritual of Talon. Like, wouldn't that be interesting if like he had saw those dreams with Croup? Yeah. That's what he had seen.
Crazy.
And just it's really cool, like and wild, and like, so it's really awesome. But I think that it's not Tattersail's doing that leads to this event, but it's actually because it was Nightchill.
Yeah, I think you're
right.
Now
they're intertwined, and this war is taking place. So
yeah. But yeah, I think like this whole book is going to come down to who gets to take the lead here. I think, or maybe not the whole book, but I think some significant things because of who Silver Fox is, or who she is destined to be, which is the first, alive Bonecaster in thousands and thousands and thousands of years, destined to lead the Talani Mas, who were thought to not going to be able to help. They used to work with the Malazan Empire. They don't any longer. They were not expected to help in this upcoming battle of the Penyon Doman. But now they're all coming. They're coming to see Silver Fox and to give her, basically to give her their blessing. Right? Or is it the other way around? Is she giving them her blessing? I think they're giving her.
They're coming. So she said they're coming for benediction, which means they're coming for praise. Right?
Yeah, okay.
So yeah, and so
but
like,
she hasn't decided she's like going to accept it yet, right?
Yeah, exactly. But like to put that like in a religious context, right? Because like as Catholics, like as a Catholic, like we perform benediction, but like benediction is like performed like in the presence of the Lord. Like that's the idea behind benediction. Okay. So it's like that's when you come and you're kneeling and you're praising, and like you're saying your prayer. So like this is a calling for like all Talani Mas to like come and to praise. So in some sense, she's like is the savior, right? Like that's how she's being projected. Which is in many ways that's a very scary thing, right? Because she is if she becomes like the sort of de facto leader for some of the most dangerous warriors on the planet, that's how they view her, right? And so it's understandable that she's viewed as an extreme threat.
Yeah, and that's why so like Dewjack and Whiskey Jack, Kaladin Brood, and Amanda Rake, they are all kind of on edge. Specific and Kaller, I don't think Kaller is quite as concerned with that role. I think he just hates. He's like, it's her. It's the sister of Cold Knights. Like we need to kill her. That's what he wants to kill her. before this happens. Get her out of there. But he really only answers to Kaladin Brood. He's not afraid of anyone really else except for Kaladin Brood. And Kaladin Brood is like, no, not until I say. And so he's protecting her. Whiskey Jack is protecting her. Whiskey Jack is just like, I don't care who this person is. It's a child. We're not killing a child. Period. And he bitch slaps Kaller for even suggesting it, which is crazy. Yeah. I think Kaller later says like he hasn't been like touched by another human in like thousands of years, and Whiskey Jack's just like, psh.
Yeah,
like how dare you? Oh, which is great.
It's so good.
But yeah, I just don't even know where to start with. I mean, we've already started, but I don't even know where to go. There's so many moving parts with Kaladin Brood. More like Kaladin Brood and the Malazan part, and then there's the whole bridge burners and Perron. Maybe we talk about Perron, because Perron is another major player here.
That's what I was thinking, because I think the way you can kind of think about this is there's a way that the web is being spun, so to speak, and it's kind of neat where it's like you have a sort of like non-traditional love story in a way of like Tattersail and Perron were lovers, but then she dies, and now she's got this trajectory. Like if you think that, oh, there's a way now, it's like Tattersail is going to get older really quickly, and so then Perron turns out to be like
the maybe or whatever her name is.
That's the, oh my gosh, the emotional impact of that in this story.
It's tragic.
It's so tragic. But it's definitely like not this case of like, oh, they're going to be back together now. Like she has a fate. Like she's being drawn in a way, and that draw is like towards greatness. Like she's being drawn towards being the leader of this, of the T'lan Imaas for a purpose. And that's how she kind of projects it. It's like, I need to be the leader because you're going to need them. But then at the same time, Perron, like, this is not those cases of like, well, she's, reached fame, and so he's left in the dust. Like, no, he's being drawn towards, fame and glory as well, towards this great thing. And those two things, there's not two different directions, but two different roles, but it's being presented as they're two different sides of the same coin or two different pieces of the same key. Like, they're both needed to be in those roles. We need Perron to continue his journey towards ascendancy, which is crazy. Crazy. Perron, who was murdered by Cotillion at one point, by the way, right, is like now reaching a level of ascendancy, which like we've not seen since Calivan and Cotillion, which none of the characters we've really interacted with have been like actually pulled into ascendancy, but he's being pulled into ascendancy. Even crazier than that is what started this whole event was the birth of the new House of Azath in Darujhistan in response to the Jagged Tyrant, which ironically we now know why it took him in. Because at first we're like, oh, because he's really powerful. It's like, no, it's like that Azath was new.
And he's a keeper.
And it's like, I need a guardian.
Yeah.
So let me find the nearest Jagu, because Jagu make really great guardians.
When we see Race in there, I don't know why, but like he just felt so like chill. Like he's just like, yeah, I'm the guardian. What's up, bro? Like
Well, and like we also know too that like it's kind of in a way like the best place for him. Like we've seen one Jagu, right, in a House of Azath who found peace, who came from a life of war and violence, and he's like now at peace. And so like maybe there's a future here of this tyrant. Like he's imprisoned, but this is at least hopefully a better one. I mean, I know that's not saying much, but like it seems like maybe this is like where he needs to be in a way. But yeah, it is hilarious that he's like, I'm the tyrant, I'm gonna destroy this town, I'm gonna protect this house. And then like we actually see Rel, and we see like the guild the leader of the assassins is like sleeping on the floor, and he's like, Perron's like, have you not tried to wake them up? He's like, dude, I don't care.
Yeah.
Like, what am I gonna wake them up?
Yeah.
He's like, how long has it been? He's like, dude, don't ask.
Yeah, who knows?
I'm not counting days.
He's just chill.
He's just chill. He's like accepting it. He's like, whatever.
Yeah.
And he's like, what happens if I don't venture down this dark path? Well, then I kill you. Really? dude, just no. You just annoy the crap out of me. That's what
he's literally cracking jokes, like, bro, like, just what a change. But yeah, my guy's been humbled.
Yeah,
but yeah,
and so we have these two characters, and like I think that we need, for some reason, we need the Talani Moss, and we need an Ascendant, and that's what it's gonna take. But it can't just be that. We also need these other tools. And then, like, to me, that's what it seems like is Kaladin, Rake, Kaladin, Brute, and Alamin and Rake. In some ways, they're tools in a way. Like they're bringing necessary pieces. Like Dragnipur and the hammer, they're also two necessary pieces in all of this. And that's sort of how it seems like it's being presented. It can't just be Silver Fox. It can't just be Perron being ascended. Like we need all of these tools to assemble. Mm-hmm. We need our Malazan Avengers, so to speak. They've got to assemble in order to be able to potentially save Burn. Mm. And at least that's where it seems like that's where it's going. That's where it seems like right now is the thing that Kaladin Brood has not been able to figure out, right? How to find a third option. Maybe there is a third option, and it's only coming to light because of the combination of these three things being brought together. And it's the Panaean Domain that brings them all together, but that's okay, right? Yeah. Ultimately, it's at the right time that they're all being brought together.
Well, another thing that's interesting about Perron, which, like, I mean, man, we could really just talk about his whole journey just in this book. We're just skipping right to the part where he knows he has been chosen as the one who wanders within the sword. I can't remember what they name him, but really he there's a new card in the deck of dragons. And it's him, and it's the master of the deck. And so, yeah, within the Finnest, he goes down and basically can enter cards and see. Mm-hmm. And so he enters into a card and sees the thrones, 2 empty thrones, the thrones of the Talani Moss, and they're empty. And so they have outlived their gods. And I'm pretty sure, I can't remember, but it felt like it was hinting to me that he and Silver Fox were maybe going to take those thrones at some point, which is feels very significant.
Mm-hmm. And she might even take like the throne of Talon, because that's what they said is like it isn't so much that they outlived their gods, which they did, but it's also something about like those warrens stopped being their warrens.
Okay,
they took on a new warren, the Warren of Dust. Right?
Yeah,
that's their new warren. And so, like, maybe that's, like, Silver Fox now takes the throne. She becomes, like, the new ascendant for the Talani Moss, right? Because apparently, like, it can't be them, right? It'll be her. And they did mention that she's a soul taken, which, again, they had mentioned that before. And they mentioned that before with Tattersale, that she'd become a soul taken, which, this is the point we don't know the full implications of. But we did see with Deadhouse Gates a lot about the soul taken. And there was another thing from Deadhouse Gates that was really interesting, which is I think that it was, I can't remember which characters it was, but there was a moment where they had seen, I think they were moving through the temple and they had seen all these different thrones, and there were many of them that were empty.
Yes.
And there were several cases like that where they saw this kind of stuff. But then there was this was analogous. It might have even been the same location. I don't know if we ever figured that out. But analogous to some of the things that Fiddler had seen and the Trells had seen, right? Oh my gosh, Icarium had seen, where they had mentioned that they saw things on the walls that looked like a deck of dragons.
Yep.
And which also, and then there's like this relationship now between like the deck of dragons and the gates, and so it kind of makes you think that the deck of dragons has always been around. We thought about it as like tarot cards, but very likely there was a time in which it wasn't tarot cards, right? They were stone statues, they were carvings on the walls, and like they've always been there. This way of creating gates to read the intentions of the ascendants, or to maybe potentially even walk into the warrens of the ascendants. Like they've always been there in just different forms.
I
thought was really cool.
Yeah, it's awesome, and I'm really glad that's kind of taking this turn, because I remember I'm all about being in like the glossary and stuff for these books. I feel like you almost have to be, and I remember with Deadhouse and with Gardens, me being like, why are like 2.5 pages being taken up by this deck of dragons? Like I know it's mentioned, but like they're just like yeah, I don't know. It's just like the knight, the herald, and I'm like for every house, and I'm like, wow, this is taking up a lot of space. But now I'm like, oh, this is gonna be, majorly significant. And to parallel that, there's another deck of dragons out there which is bad. It's a bad one that has been given to the crippled god, which shows these gods and stuff on the card. So it was crafted by this guy named like Manug or something, I think was his name. Manug, yeah. Who's he's just a painter. He's a great painter. He enters the Warren, which we don't know which Warren it is. Then we find out it's Burns Warren, where the crippled god is like camping out, and he basically says, "Hey, I did what you said." He's got cancer in his legs. And he's like, I did what you said. I painted you this deck of dragons so you would cure me. That was the promise. That was the agreement we made. So he gives him this deck, which shows it's basically the same deck, but on all those cards, there's famine and bad things happening to these gods on the cards. And so he's in control of that, which is bad news. Bad news bears. And then not only does it's one of those, like, it's a deal with the devil, right? He does cure him of his cancer by just basically making him lose everything from his legs. Like, everything in there is gone. He no longer has control. But, like, it's just crazy that Manug, this guy we never met, he's just a painter. I mean, there is some serious weight in giving that deck to the crippled god. Very serious weight. Mm-hmm. And then Quick Ben's great in this book so far. There's so much more. There's so much more I want to talk about. But I think the one thing I want to talk about the most, and then we can circle back on other things if we want to, but the table. The greatest character of the book is the table, which, it was... What a great... come on. This is one of those moments where I'm like, Steven Erikson, I just think everything about it is great. There's a table that Kaladin Brood has. It's his war table. That is this like fabled table, the fabled table from the Bridge Burners that they had in a battle way back. And so Kaladin Brood has it now. We find out they sneak in and steal it. Yeah. They sneak in and steal it so that they can use the table the way it was designed, which was to cheat at cards.
Yep.
And they do it, except for it doesn't work, and they all lose all of their money, which we then find out was because there is a new card painted underneath, which is the Master of the Deck card. And the table itself is the card. It's this giant, at one point it floats. They're all having a meeting, and things are getting tense, and all of a sudden we didn't even talk about Krupp yet, showing up. But the table just levitates, and Krupp's hanging on, and then that's when they realize it's the deck, and the table is gonna journey with them to Kapistan, which is hilarious. It's going with them. They got to protect it. And at first I was like, what is this? What am I reading? They're stealing a table so I can play cards on it. Everything is important. I just got to trust. But it's so good.
It is. It's also kind of funny too that the reason why Kaladin Brood has the table is because it had been looted by the same mercenary company that he has now hired to replace the Crimson Guard.
Oh yeah, the Crimson Guard not being there is interesting too.
Yeah, and so it's just you have this funny interaction where, he mentions who's replacing the Crimson Guard, and then Whiskey Jack's like, "Oh yeah, we've had run-ins with them." He's like, "Is it gonna be okay?" He's like, "Yeah, it's fine." And then it's like, "Oh yeah, by the way, those are the same guys who gave this table. Do you want it back?" He's like, "No, it's fine."
It's crazy. Yeah. And I do. I also want to. So there's the Darujhistan crew shows up.
Yep.
Again, I feel like we could talk about the parlay forever. There's so much stuff that happens. Silver Fox knows that Whiskey Jack and Dewjack know about that the Bridge Burners all that was planned. She knows that. She also makes a point to recognize the standard bearer that's with Dewjack and Whiskey Jack. His name is Artanthos. So I don't know who that is, but someone that they know.
Likely a claw.
Yeah, because we learned that Night Chill was very close with Laseen, and there's been Night Chills in armies way back, and they're always named Night Chill. So yeah, maybe a claw, maybe somehow Belladin. Belladin's got to be a part of this because they're like, okay, well this happened with Tattersale and this happened with Night Chill. where's Bellerden? And I'm like, yeah, where the hell is Bellerden? Like, that's a good point. So he's got to be somewhere in here. But yeah, that just everything with the parlay. Kaladin Brood, Anomander Rick shows up and it's like, hey, let me send my sorcery to you and feel you out, Silverfox. She's like, hell no. He's like, all right, I'm gonna draw my blade. And Kaladin Brood's like, you better not draw that fucking blade, bro. Like, you better not draw that blade. And it's just really tense. And that's when Krupp is there. He shows up, and they've already got their plan. They're going to Kapistan, but they can't take the rivers anymore, so they got to go over land, but they're not going to have the supplies to do that, so what are we going to do? And then Krupp shows up, and he's like, our trusty that we've learned, and I talked to you about this briefly, the what is it, Bob Law's Law Blog? Yep. This is what the Trigale's Trade Guild is. Yeah, Steven Erikson in names. Yeah. I feel like half the time I'm like, hell yeah, Anomander Rake? Hell yeah. And then he's like, Stony Monachus, the Trigale Trade Guild. I'm just like, what are these? Like, wait, the same guy made up both these names? Like, okay. Yep. I kind of like it, though. I like the Trigale Trade Guild.
I'm enjoying it a lot.
Yeah. And so basically he's like, yeah, you should hire them. You should hire them. They're a ton of money, but they're going to get it done. And so they do.
And this is, I would say this is, and this may be too much, but I think for me, this was the first time I felt like you really would have benefited if you'd read Gardens of the Moon. I mean, I think you would benefit, period, by reading Gardens of the Moon. You should read Gardens of the Moon before reading this. But I felt like this was one of those things where the fact that Croup is the eel, which has not been brought up yet, right, in part 1 of Memories of Ice, but it feels like that is really important that we remember that Croup is the eel from Gardens of the Moon. And so if that had been lost, if you had forgotten about that, I feel like with a lot of stuff, like if you forgot about the bridge, or if you forgot about like, oh yeah, Perron and Tattersail, or like it seems like a lot of these things, like if you've forgotten about it, they're going to remind you. Like they've reminded you, they've helped you gather those things up, but they've not yet mentioned that Croup is the eel. And the moment he proposed the trade guild, I was immediately like, is this how he operates? Like, this is just a new operation of the eel. Like, he needs it to be the trade guild because he needs to stay informed in what's going on. Like, that's what he does. All right. And it's just like, it felt really important that I was like, I kept thinking, I was like, oh, he's the eel. Like, this is his way of worming in.
Oh, yeah.
And it's just so good the way it all presents itself.
He's like, yeah, you're going to choose it. So I'm going to go off and eat. When you guys decide on what I've already decided, come get me. Like, apparently he is a not beloved character. And I can't understand that. It's comedic relief, but like, it's not just, I don't know. It's just so clever that I love Croup or whatever. I really love him.
You always tease me about this because I always have like a Key and Peele sketch for every situation. But there's a Key and Peele sketch called the marble sketch, when a guy's going in for an interview and the interview test is that there's a bucket of marbles on the table, and it's just a matter of the desk, and it's like a matter of whether or not they can ignore the temptation to put the marbles in their mouth.
Yeah.
And so, but like Jordan just like goes to the window and turns his back to let the guy feel the temptation. And he just spends the entire time. You're watching the guy, but if you stop and just listen to what he's saying, he's just going on and on about like how sensual Lady Justice is. And when Croup just starts going on this like monologue of like, me and Truth, we're celebrating our 40-year anniversary. Like, it's just like, I got this picture of just him just like looking off in the distance. He's like stopped paying attention. He's just droning on about the sensual qualities of truth and honesty. And they're like, so you are here to represent Baruch. He's like, I wouldn't say not so many words, you know. They're like, he told you? He's like, he didn't have to tell me. She's like, should we contact Baruch and ask him? He's like, I think you don't need to do that.
Oh, he's so I love him. I can't wait. I'm so glad he's going to be along for this.
Yep.
That makes me really happy because I kind of forgot about him until he showed up. I was like, oh yeah, Croup. Like, I'm so glad he's back.
Yep.
Oh.
But I just felt like I had to go into that too, because the moment when he presents the trade guild and they're like, well, do you have a stake in the trade guild? Like, because they kind of painted it as like he has a financial stake, so he's like doing the same thing. But I don't think he has a fight. I think like that's his like front.
Yeah,
like,
yeah.
That's the eel's front, and so he's like pawning it off as a, he said this whole thing about truth and being obtuse, and then it felt like, for me at least, and I could be wrong, but it felt like he's so clever. He uses all of that obfuscation, so that way when they think they get him, like, oh yeah, you're just being corrupt, you just want a piece of the pie, he can obfuscate it, and then they're none the wiser about the fact that this is not about money, it's about information.
Yep.
And being able to move, being able to be there to assist in the moving of the pieces politically. And it's just like, that's how it read off to me. I was like, he's so clever. It's so funny. And like, he enjoys being viewed as a pig, but at the same time, he does it because it just completely covers up for the fact of who he is.
Yeah.
Like, it's so good. It's so good.
Well, is there any other, I mean, again, I keep saying this because there is. I feel like there's still a lot we didn't talk about. But are there any, we're at 2 hours and 10 minutes. We still need to talk about our likes and dislikes, which will be probably quick, and then our predictions, which will probably also be quick. Yeah. Is there anything else you want to chat about before we move on to that? I'm kind of looking through my notes to make sure there weren't any. I'm sure there's probably someone watching it like, this is so important. And we're just like, yeah, I don't know. Perron learns about the fate of his family, which is important. The maybe or the mibby. How do you say it?
I thought it was maybe.
Maybe, yeah, whatever. Yeah, maybe, maybe. I don't know, but yeah, what a tragic. Like, she has a moment that she basically is like, I'm just gonna kill myself because this is it's worse than death. Like, this is awful. I'm just being like leached and quickly, and she just doesn't see the point, and like she can't even do that. Corlat won't let her, and so this is gonna be, I think she's gonna be strung along for the whole thing, and I think it's gonna be a recurring character that I don't want to see her anymore because it's just brutal, and it sucks, and she had no choice. She was chosen because she's like a good vessel for that, so she birthed Silver Fox.
Silver Fox, that's right.
And when Silver Fox finds out, and she's sad about it, like and I can't remember who. I think it's Calor.
Yeah, Calor's
he's a
one
freaking dick, and he just like tells her, and like that moment, she kind of just like looks to her with just like the sadness on her face, and it's, man, it's just great. So that was a big important thing.
And I think it is worth noting, because it probably will come up, but we shouldn't be blind to the fact that Kaladin Brood is the one who is currently taking her as a charge and protecting Silver Fox.
Mm-hmm.
That he has been, an ally and a friend to Animander Rake for thousands and thousands of years. That it is Corlett, who is Atista Andy working on Animake, who is now stopping Maybe from killing herself and taking her into her personal care and protection. There is a lot of vested interest from these characters into Silver Fox, and maybe two of them are ascendants. Right, Kaladin Brood and Animator Rank. And so I think it's fair to say that they have a lot more knowledge about this process than they're giving off, right? Than they've revealed so far, and that they're taking special care to observe this process.
Yeah.
And so I'm very, very, very interested to see how that continues to develop. And so I think there's in some sense like a secondary tragedy of like, and it does remind me like a little bit of birth, because I've been there. I was the support person for my wife through all 4 births.
I've been birthed.
Yeah. I've been birthed. I've been through that, so I know exactly what that's like. No, but I've been the support person for my wife like through all 4 of her deliveries. And one of the things about that process is sometimes it just really depends on each person has a different experience. But you can get into this position where there is no going back, but it can be really, really tough. And like this happened recently with Thomas, where my wife's just really tired. And so we hit that point where it's just like, okay, I don't know if I can do this anymore. It's like, you have to. Like we got to keep pushing. Like I'm here, I'm holding your hand. We can do this. You can do this. You just got to keep encouraging them because now it's kind of at that point of no return. And so it's like we have to make sure that we can keep you strong and help support you because we got to push this baby out. And that's what it feels like with Mybi. Like kind of Reddit. It was just like Colette's like, no, like you can't do this, but at the same time, it's also feels like you have to ride this out. It's like it's very important that like this be finished in its natural way. And so it's in some sense it's like she's trying to be a good friend, but in other sense like she might be obligated to make sure that Mybi doesn't kill herself. That like it's important that Mybi dies this not natural way, so to speak, but this new natural way. Mm-hmm. And so like what does that mean? Like if it is the case like Mybi cannot kill herself, right? Like why is that? Like what what are we hatching, so to speak?
Yeah. They have a it's a really interesting conversation because I can't remember exactly what they talk about as to the specifics, but there's a part of me that remembers that Mybi is basically saying like she's gotten what she needs of me. No one needs me anymore, so why can't I? Like why can't I? Like we're done. I can't remember exactly what it was, but it was something like that, and I found that really interesting.
Essentially that. They confirmed that she's like, so she's essentially like 99% expent.
Yeah, exactly. Like so she's like, I'm like, so let me go. But
but there's something like, but it feels like there's something about that like last 1%, right? It's just like no, there's something, there's a conclusion that has to be reached, and maybe I'm reading too much into it. I could be off, but it does feel that way.
It feels that way, yeah, for sure.
Yeah.
So real quick, before we go to our likes and dislikes, I did want to, dang it, close my notes by accident. I did want to just see, kind of like setting us up for like where we're going in part 2. Really was like the parlay. So they are going to head to Capistan, and by they I mean Whiskey Jack and Dujek, Kaladin Brood. In theory, the Talani Moss are going to head to Capistan to help them fend off a potential siege, and then they're going to push down into Coral to actively like go on the offensive against the Panyan Doman. So that's the parlay that they had and the plans that they made. They're going to be funded across the land by the Trigale Trade Guild. But Whiskey Jack has also sent Piran on his own mission with as the captain of the Bridge Burners, which he's been deemed the captain of the Bridge Burners, and I think he even gives Piran a way out because they don't really like him, and he's like, no, I'm doing this, and so they are taking, I think his name is Trots, who is a Barghast, I think, to his people. They're going to get his people, the White Face. Is it White Face or White Clan? I think it's White Face. The White Face Barghast clan, and then they, I think, up near Saltoan, which makes sense because that's where we saw the three that are with the caravan people, and then they're also going to head back down. So it's important that they get this Barghast clan for some reason. That's kind of like the side mission they're going on. Talk and Lady Envy and Tool are working their way up north from south of Darujistan, traveling up there, and then our caravan people. They were also heading to Capistan. So everything is kind of converging on Capistan, which is exciting. Not really following that many different parts of the continent. So yeah, anything else to add as far as like where we kind of leave things off? Okay, so let's talk about likes and dislikes. Let's do dislikes first because mine's easy. I don't have any. I have none.
Yeah, no. I don't have any dislikes so far. I think it's all been really solid. Yeah, I mean, like I said, I do feel like this is one of those where I am. This isn't a dislike, but it's about as close as I can get. Is I feel like so far this would be a very different book if we had read Deadhouse Gates a year ago. The fact that we read Deadhouse Gates relatively recently, and same thing with Gardens of the Moon, phenomenal. Just so good. Everything's just connecting so well. And yeah, so I think that this is really it's become a series. It's so good that we get to like be here now reading it
I
when
would
it's all
hate
laid out
having to
for
wait in between
having to
books.
wait would be terrible.
It'd be terrible.
Terrible.
Now I will say I do think like Dead House leaves in a way. There's not. I mean, like there it does leave in like a hold your breath in a way, but I think us knowing we were get like where Memories of Ice was going, like we knew it was going back to the Gardens characters. So like I wasn't like, oh, I can't wait to start Memories of Ice to see where Dead House Gates picks up. I knew we were not getting there yet. So that kind of was nice. But yeah, I just he does tie a bow. Like when I think about Dead House Gates, right? We talked about it. It's the Chain of Dogs. That's the story, and he does tie a really nice bow on that, to where I don't know ending that one. I would be like, I can't wait another year. Other than just like I want a good story, and I know he's going to provide that. But yeah, I think this is the easiest. So let's get into likes now. For me, easiest onboarding of the three. And I put mostly because there is still a lot of like theorizing that has to be done. But I think I followed what I was supposed to follow much easier than I could say for Gardens or Dead House. And maybe that is experience. To me, I think it's not. I think it's just more well crafted here. So that's my first like. Second like is the humor. I think he really ramped up the humor, and I love it. I love it. It and we could talk about a lot of that humor comes from like human interaction. That just I think that's become like maybe my favorite thing about Steven Erikson is just like how human everyone is, and they can. Yeah, I don't know. Just in their conversations, I can learn about a lot about a character by the way they say two sentences, and I think that's really impressive. I put just overall a more interesting setup for me, maybe because I wasn't following Dead House as quite as well up front. But like here, I know the stakes. I know what the stage has been set to be. I know what we're kind of gonna get into, and I'm way more interested. When you think about this whole part of the book, it was a lot of talking, not a lot of stuff happening, but I was just glued to the page through it. Like I don't care if there's a ton of action or not. I'm super interested. And then lastly, I put Buke. I love Buke. I don't know why, just like that redemption story, but it's more than redemption because it's like there's like a sadness to it to me. And like I'm just really excited. Buke could die. We'll get to predictions. Buke could die next chapter, but it feels like to me Buke could become like an all-time favorite character if he lives through this book or more books. But yeah, so those are my likes, and basically everything else. But those are like the notable things for me. How about for you?
Yeah, the thing I love the most about this so far is just, I mean, granted, again, I really, really like Gardens of the Moon. And while I also enjoyed Dead House Gates, and I think that in many ways is just a better story, there is a kind of like attitude or like hopeful nature, you could say, that I connect with a lot more from Gardens of the Moon. That is being brought into this, there is a very, very exhausting attitude that's brought into Dead House Gates because it should be. The Chain of Dogs is exhausting. It's tiring, and it was made such a great story because of that. But like, I love the fantasy elements that we get.
Yeah, this feels more like fantasy.
Yeah, exactly, and I love that part of it. But one of the things that makes it so cool is it's amazing how we can take all of this stuff from Gardens of the Moon as a foundation, and we can continue to elevate that. Right, to continue to show that there's more of a web than we thought that there was, and that this web is kind of bringing again that sense of like fate and destiny and providence. But like the fact that like Kaladin Brood became this sort of notable warlord to now an ascendant, like carrying a hammer that's caught in the middle of a decision of like killing everybody one way or another, who's like desperately trying to find a third option, like taking charge of like Silver Fox, like protecting her, like just in a very short period of time, this character got just launched, like just vaulted into the into the heavens for us of just like this is crazy. Like who is this person? And so it's just really amazing how that happens, and it just feels very cool. And rather than feeling like like we see sometimes in anime of just like the classic like we got to keep upscaling, we got the power creep has got to be real. It feels very natural because we're seeing this development of these characters, and we know the stakes are really high, but we don't know what's going to happen just yet. And so we can start to see the seeds being laid, and that's what part 1 has really done. And I love that, right? And because of reading Guardians of the Moon and reading Dust Gates, we can kind of see how that's working. And it's very, very cool. And like once again, it feels like all of a sudden, like our understanding of Jaguts and Talani Moss is gonna be like blown wide open. It feels like our understanding of Warrens is gonna be like blown wide open, and Ascendants and like how they operate and what they do and like what their purpose is. Like, why is Kaladin Brood and Animator Rake? Why are they not like Opon? Why are they not like Hood? Like, why do they operate differently? And things like that. And it's really cool. And I love how it's being brought together. And I really love cool swords, man.
I was about to say, that was my question for you. I know you love cool swords. And now we have, obviously the hammer is not a sword, but we do have a second extremely powerful weapon, unnamed as of right now, which I am curious if it has a name. Which one do you like more? Which one do you think is cooler? And which one do you think is more powerful?
So I think technically, so I like Dragon Emperor better. I always like swords a lot, but I also like they're very thematic in their representation, because note that a hammer is a tool, not a weapon, right? I know they use it as a weapon, right? But a hammer is a tool, not a weapon. A sword is a weapon.
I'm picturing like instead of a war hammer, it's like an actual like giant like hammer for nails. That's what he's carrying.
Well, and that's why in the Shadows of Mordor game, where they present like the Wraith, I always thought it was really cool that like he's a blacksmith, but he's always presented as his own blacksmith hammer as his weapon, right? Of like because like he is like fundamentally he is a blacksmith. So like he can't he's not gonna carry swords, he's gonna carry like a battle hammer, war hammer, like that's his weapon. But it's a tool, and it's like reminds you of that. Like a sword is definitionally not a tool. It is not a knife. It is a weapon of war. And there's this really interesting thing of like they're both used for what they are. Yes, Kaladin Brood uses his hammer as a weapon, but its destiny is to forge the world, right? Like if he brings that down to like break the world, like it creates a new beginning, which will be forged by Burn. But that's what she made it for. She made it as a tool to free her, and to create a new world. And Dragnapur is like wielded for justice, which is like really interesting. Is like its finality. They keep stressing its finality, which is just really like cool for the sword. Of like that's what Animander Rake uses it for. Like it is used to bring about his justice. It is an extension of his justice, and it is meant to be the most final thing that could ever be. Like we live in a world people can be like resurrected or like reincarnated, like death can sometimes be circumvented, but this sword is meant to be final, right? That justice is meant to be exact and absolute. And yet like Animander Rake, he's the one who wields this. Like he could have the greatest visions of grandeur of godhood, but that's not quite what we get from him. We actually in many ways almost get the sort of like lackadaisical character in a way of just like he kind of just like goes places and does things because he just should be there, right? Like the way he interacts with Baruch, the way he interacts now with Kaladin Brood, he kind of just does things. It's not as exacting or as precise or as like strategic as like Brood or Dujek are, and so it's really interesting. But he's the one. He's like, well, but if I've made this decision, whatever it is, it will be final.
Yeah.
And it's just like it's really cool. And I think that the idea of being slain by a weapon that curses you to an eternity of useless labor, that's wild.
Yeah, it is wild. Yeah, worse fate than death for sure. I also meant to say, so with where things are, I can't remember, and maybe you will. I know Moonspawn is already going.
Yep.
I can't remember if it's going directly to Coral to meet them there after Capistan, or if it's going to Capistan to help them there.
Right now, it seems like it's supposed to be a decoy.
So it would make sense it's going to Coral then,
yep.
right?
Most likely, because it's or when they make their charge to Coral, it will be a secondary front. Because keep in mind, like they're taking a sort of like the long route to Coral, because they're trying to set up multiple fields so they can feign what their actual target is.
Yep.
And so it seems like Moonspawn is just another piece in that game. They want to make sure that they're always presenting multiple fronts, so that way it's never clear where their true aim is. You know, they make a rush for Coral. Is that their true aim, or is it where Moonspawn is going, right? And it makes sense too, because keep in mind, like, Moonspawn is like where the Tista Andi come from. Like, it's a massive floating. Like, if you saw if you saw an army like charging on Coral, and you were like, yeah, like we got to go after them. Don't mind this like hulking sky castle of like ancient wizards and assassins. That's fine. It's like, they'd be like, holy shit, we also have to like deal with that thing too. So I think that's like, it seems like that's what it's supposed to be, is like a decoy. It's constantly meant to distract from whatever their true intentions might be.
Yeah, that makes sense. All right, let's get into our predictions. I didn't write down too many. I wrote down 4. So here we go. I just was like, I need to make some predictions. Here we go. I put Tattersail ain't going to stay at the forefront for long, because she's pretty much there right now. She's at the forefront. I don't think that's going to stay that way for very long. That's my first one. I got 2 deaths. I think Whiskey Jack dies. But even more than that, I think Buke does die by making a very large sacrifice in this book. I just feel like it's so set up for that. And he's going to die happy. I think he's going to be happy that he can like reunite with his family. And it's going to be a pretty emotional moment, I think. And then this one's, a softball, but Perron, we can talk about it, but Perron has been like very, very sick and haunted. And by the way, he does have a vision of a child screaming with like a tear, and of a wolf that he says. He tells Silver Fox this, and he runs away from the child. And Silver Fox is like, no, dog, run towards the child. So I'm just curious if that, it seems like that has to do with the kids in the rent at Morn. That's what it seems like to me. But anyway, so he's been fighting. They couldn't figure out why he's sick. They think it's because he had the blood of the hound in him. And turns out, no, it's because he is fighting his own ascendancy. And so my prediction is just that he accepts his ascendancy. He accepts his place as the master of the deck, and he's going to lean into it. And maybe he won't. Maybe he will fight it the whole time. But I think he's going to realize he needs to in his power. And I think that's going to shape him a lot. But those are like my, I didn't really say anything about like, I think they're going to beat the Panyan Domin in this book. If I want to take a real big swing, like the biggest swing, I think it makes no sense. But Kaladin Brood uses the hammer. And the other 7 books in the series have 0 recurring characters. It's all brand new. Steven Erikson says, fuck you. Here we go. We're starting again. Which, by the way, I can't remember. So it's always interesting to read a series that is done and knowing the titles of the books. Do you know the title of the last couple of books? Okay, I do. And it does feel like it's putting some more weight into certain things than maybe otherwise would. So it kind of feels a little bit like cheating, but I don't know. It is a very interesting thing to think about with big series like that. But that's it. I won't say anything else. So what about you? Any predictions? Or once? I didn't really say any once, but I don't know if I have any.
So my first prediction is that the throne that Perron takes, I think, is going to be affiliated or associated in some way with either, I know I'm kind of splitting this a little bit, but either the Rent that we saw, the Warren that was wounded, and or this new Warren that all of a sudden is being worshipped in Drujistan. Because they keep mentioning this like crazed bestial god from this Warren, and how crazy it is that all of a sudden people are like celebrating. This was brought up in the first chapter with like Manug or whatever, when they were like, why are people, oh, there's like a new Warren that's popping up, or a new church that's popping up that's like celebrating this. And then and then they take the bracelets that lock in, and then Quick Ben's like, you idiot, like that's blessed by a priest from like this crazy.
I think Treach is the name. Like a soul-taken demigod.
Yep. And so, but that I do wonder if there's maybe some relationship, but like maybe Treach like is the one who was released, or maybe it's this like wolf, or so I wonder if there's some relationship there. It feels faded in a way, like especially okay if you want to talk about titles of the book, Memories of Ice. Ice is currently only associated with Jagut. Jagut are nearly wiped out. What happened to their Warren? Right? Is it empty? That's and if true. It is empty, who's going to take it? Is it maybe the case Piran takes it? And that's where we get the Memories of Ice. But also, we also saw like a simp god get killed in his Warren. That he was encased in ice.
Wait, but he didn't die. He didn't die.
He's in pieces.
No, because remember he came back even in that book, and they fight him, but then he just runs away.
Yeah.
So he's still I think in decent shape.
Yeah, I don't actually think that like that Warren is empty. I think it's still technically occupied. But yeah, but it just leads to these things. But like we saw, like the Jagut had like an effect on that Warren too, right?
But you think he is going? So like, I guess my as master of, you think the master of the deck, who, because like if we look at like in the back where we're looking at like the houses. So like for example, we know that the Son of Darkness that is Anomander Rake.
Yep.
He is the knight right here, the knight of High House Dark.
Yep.
But the master of the deck is like above all of this in theory, right?
Yeah. But like one of the oldest.
So you think he'll still step down? It's almost like a step down for him to take a throne, seemingly. Like if he's in charge of all these thrones and stuff, then he would almost have to like come down and take one.
Maybe, but maybe not. Like maybe, like presumably there has to be a first Warren.
Yeah.
And like the oldest Warren we know of was the one that was wounded.
The one in the prologue. So that's the Warren of the Kachane Chamal.
Yeah.
And like confirmed that it's theirs.
Right. But so that it seems like that's like one of the oldest, and just I wonder, like that's what I'm kind of wondering is like, wouldn't it be crazy? Because it could be because it's not, so presumably not the Warren of Chaos, which is like where the crippled god is from, right? Or maybe it is, but
I'm thinking it's not.
Yeah,
but I guess it could be.
So, but like we know the Jagut are really old. We know the Talon and Moss are really old. But yeah, it just seems like there needs to be an empty seat, and it doesn't seem like it would be some inconsequential Warren that's popped up along the way. It seems like it's going to be one of these. And I just found it really interesting that like when they confronted Karuli about being a priest, and he said that he can use sorcery, and then if he opens his Warren, it's from an elder god. But like he didn't really know what would happen. Like that was really interesting as well. Like, is it possible that because Piran is master of the deck, that there's this thing that Karuli's now tapping into that's become unpredictable because people haven't tapped into it yet, or haven't tapped into it in a very long time?
Yeah, Karuli is a very intriguing character.
Mm-hmm.
What's he got to gain? Who is he?
Yeah. So I would say my first prediction is that Piran and his ascendancy is like in some way connected to this wounded Warren. And or the beast that was released, or this thing of Treach. And then my other prediction was that Silver Fox and the Talon and Moss are the key to the third option that Celebrand Brood has been looking for, to be able to save Burn. I don't think my third prediction is I don't think we defeat the Pantheon Domini in this one, or Domin in this one. And my fourth prediction is that I think that even though they spent time talking about how Kapustan is disposable, ultimately they make a big stand at Kapustan, and that's probably where this ends. Is they managed to survive, or they managed to keep Kapustan liberated, even at great cost, potentially great cost.
Okay.
So
nice. Well, we did it. Only took us an hour and a half. We nailed it.
Mm-hmm. I like to think that the clock starts once we're already through the prologue.
Prologue doesn't count. It says here at the top of the video, book 1, The Spark and
exactly.
the Ashes. It was a prologue to the video.
It was an appetizer, like any good dinner. You gotta have your appetizer.
Yeah, it's crazy. When I was thinking about this, going before this video, before I started actually putting down my notes, I was like, man, compared to all the other parts of all the other books, I think we could actually knock this out fairly quickly because there's only like one real main thing happening. But no, and honestly, I feel like there's still stuff we didn't cover that I could keep talking about. But I think that's good. I think we covered the main things pretty well. And yeah, I mean, I had a great time talking about it. I'm stoked. We haven't really talked about how we've been enjoying this, where Dead House Gates was really our like test book because we read Garden separately. So Dead House was like our first like test. But yeah, I don't know. I'm super stoked to keep reading.
Yeah. I am very, very excited. That did remind me. I guess I do have one dislike I can go ahead and add, but it's not really against the book. So I told you this. I've been doing this hybrid. So I've been reading it out of the book, but also listening to it on Audible.
Mm-hmm. Oh, so you know how the names are pronounced?
You
still don't?
I do. I mean, do I though? I mean, I assume that they're correct.
Does the narrator? Yeah, that's true. Does the narrator know?
Yeah, because he pronounces it Panion. He pronounces it Taskrin, Powdersale, Whiskey Jack,
Buke,
Perron, Buke, Dujak.
Does he say Croup or Krupp?
He says Croup.
Okay.
So
he says Taskrin.
Taskrin. Yeah, that's how you pronounce it. Yeah, Taskrin.
All right, I got called out for butchering it, saying Taskrin.
Yeah, not Taskrin.
Maybe I said Taskrin. Yeah,
Taskrin, yeah.
That's not a butcher though. Come on, it's close.
No. Karuli. But anyway, I will say that overall, I have found this one. I haven't listened to the ones on Audible, but it has been pretty easy to follow along on Audible. I've been really enjoying doing it as a hybrid read. I will say that, and maybe this is because I'm coming off of Stephen Pacey, but I will say that in terms of quality, not the best.
Yeah, I think I've heard that as well.
Yeah, I think the main problem is, okay, and this is just me coming at this from as a DM, is just because you can do different voices doesn't mean you should. Okay, so that's the way I'll put it. It's just that he does try to do different voices, but I don't know if like a whole lot of care was. I shouldn't say that, but the voices don't necessarily match the character.
Kaladin Brew.
Yeah. Like, okay, yeah, no. So like Kaladin Brew is really, really weird. Like when Kaladin Brew and Animator Rake are interacting, because it's just like he's like very committed to like a particular voice at a particular tone, regardless of what's going on in the scene.
Oh, I see. Like like emotionally.
Yeah, and so like Kaladin Bruin is like deep voiced and boisterous. He's like deep voiced and boisterous, and it's just like it's like really really weird because you just like don't know if he's about to like kill someone or like if he's like just joined the frat party and is like hugging them. It's like, whoa, I haven't seen you in forever. and it's just like because there's these moments where he's like, Carlo, if you dare touch her, then I will unsheath this hammer and hit it. And then there's another moment where he's like, okay, if everyone is done with this table, let's go into my tent. And it's just like, what is going on?
Yeah. Like, does it seem like, because my best guess would be that the person narrating these books, I don't know the process of like narrating. I assume, like, it's speaking of Stephen Pacey, I think he just is objectively, I'm not listening to too many narrators, but I think he's just objectively one of the best out there, period. But if I were to guess, I would say Stephen Pacey reads the book, then goes back and narrates it. He's not reading it on a first pass. Where Malazan might not, like, Stephen Pacey feels like he has a good understanding of who these characters are for the entire book, not just for what he's reading at that moment. But I think that's a lot harder to do with Malazan, right? We're focusing on 10 characters versus like, I can't remember. There's like 36,000 named characters in Malazan or something. So like, I could kind of see it. But yeah, I've never heard anyone say like, you got to do the audiobooks.
Yeah, it is. It's just one of those things that I learned from doing D&D. It's just like it can be helpful to different voices, but you should never feel obliged to. Because if it's just not your thing, then sometimes it's just not as helpful.
Yeah.
And so you can do other things like change your tone or stress who's talking in order to make it more clear. Even if it doesn't like specifically say, those words, which obviously if you're reading, you want to probably be pretty true to what is exactly written. But yeah, you can alter your tone a little bit to kind of in that moment be able to kind of help them differentiate. But yeah, it's just the voice work is, I would say, more distracting than it is helpful.
Yeah, I can see it.
So,
and it's all Steven Erickson's fault. Dislike, 1 star.
Yeah. And the podcasts are like literally monotone.
I'm curious. So yeah, we don't talk too much. We can talk off camera maybe, but like, what the hell are the Barghast? Like, I feel like we kind of learned that
they're like humanoid half giants.
Oh, so they're okay. Okay.
Yeah.
Yeah, because they didn't really give us too much description. Or like with like the Jagged, we kind of know they're like orc-like, right? I can make that comparison. They're like orcs. And then like Anomander Rake kind of looks like a dark elf a little bit. So I was just like, I don't know what the hell these Barghast. Yeah, the only thing was like humanoid. That's kind of really what I got out of it. But okay, cool. So we did it. We're done with book 1 of book 3. If you made it this far, we appreciate you watching. Let us know how many names we got wrong. And yeah, I think our plan is 2 to 3 weeks will hopefully be our time in between each of these parts. And so you can hopefully expect a new video in 2 to 3 weeks. If it's not up by then, it's coming. We're not abandoning the series. It's coming. But yeah, I've been having a great time. I'm stoked to do the next one. Anything you want to say in closing?
No, just I'm really excited to get into the next book and to see where this goes. And just again, bear with us. Book 3, the same for this as has been for others, is I think the longest. So not Memories of Ice, but specifically part 3 of Memories of Ice is the longest. So there may be this case where, based on what's going on in the semester or in work, when you have a lot of extra pages that to be read, maybe that one gets pushed back an extra week to give us time to really discuss it, or not discuss it, but like do our notes, do our preparation. But overall, what we're hoping to do is to be able to maintain a good pace where we are kind of getting these books knocked out about every 2 months, and then able to give ourselves a little bit of time in between to maybe do a different book, like a one-off, and then get back into Malazan. So, you probably expect about every 8 to 10 weeks.
Yep.
We'll get another book done, and I'm really excited.
Sick. So. Yeah, I'm stoked. I know this one is considered a lot of people's favorite. I tend to hear this or Dead House are their favorites. So I don't know if that's just because some people don't make it to the back half, or I've heard every book is good, so I'm not worried about that. But I'm very curious.
My speculation so far, and this is completely biased and subjective, right? This is totally based on my experience so far, but Dead House Gates, Gardens of the Moon got me really excited for the characters in Gardens of the Moon. Dead House Gates got me really excited for the story in Chain of Dogs. Memories of Ice so far has gotten me really excited about Malazan.
Yeah.
Like the series.
Yeah.
Like this is the first, like I just didn't have this experience in Dead House Gates where I had read any part of it and I was like, I want to read every book of the series. Memories of Ice was just like this series, like this is, I want to read this series. Like that's the first time it feels like I don't know, like it's like it feels like a book of many, maybe that's just because this is the first time when all the lights are coming on, we're starting to see how everything's connecting. But yeah, this is really like it's hit that it is a big series, and it's so cool. It is.
Yeah, it's so crazy. Cool. It's crazy how much has happened and how much still needs to happen. Like that's what's like. really we have 8 books left because we're 7 3/4. We're only 2 1/4, and I feel like I've learned a new language. Like there's that much stuff. So yeah, I'm stoked. But all right, yeah, let's sign off, and yeah, I'm Matt.
I'm Ian.
And we are. Goodbye. We'll see you in the next one. Goodbye.